Welcome to Cosmic Wand, the free library of your favorite fictions, fanfictions and many more. Make sure to subscribe and be part of our family. Now let's begin. Carolyn's point of view asterisk. Wait up, Jade. I moaned. We were running late breakfast. We'll get detention if we're late one more time. Jade said. Jade was good student. She was always worried about ruining her perfect record. She always had perfect grades and the professors loved her. We'll be fine. Don't worry, I said. Jade turned around and gave me a look. The look was like, are you kidding? She then turned around and continued running. Eventually we got to the dining hall without a minute to spare. We sat down just as breakfast magically appeared on the table as usual. A minute or two later James showed up. Hi, he said. James Potter. Professor Longbottom called. Busted, Jade said while giving me a stare. I gave James a smile of sympathy, then gave Jade a sour one. James is my boyfriend. We've been friends for years, but we became more in the beginning of the year. Breakfast was silent for a while. Then it was time for mail. The owls swarmed above our heads looking for their recipients. A small brown and white owl dropped a letter in front of me. Thanks, I told it and sent it on its way. Who's it from? Jade asked. Mom, I'm sure. It's not like anyone else could have. I said. I have a mom, but not a dad. I don't know all that much about him. Mom says that I have his eyes. She also says that he lives in America. I don't know much else about him though. I opened the letter. A 3-page note was stuffed inside. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My mom had tickets for her, Jade, and I to go to America over the winter break as a birthday present. Shish. E already checked with Jade's parents who said that it sounded like a boatload of fun. We were going to America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and most of all, the home of my dad. Jade, my mom, and I stepped out of the cab into the New York City streets. A thin layer of snow lay on the ground. I grabbed my suitcase and followed my mom into a hotel called the Marriott. I got inside the huge, decorative lobby and turned around. I didn't see Jade anywhere. After about 30 seconds of panicking, Jade walked in looking marveled. This place is, a stunned Jade started. Unlike Britain, or more, the wizarding world. I finished. We found my mom at the concierge's desk checking in. You'll be in room 612. That is a double room suite. The concierge said, come to me if you are any questions or needs. She seemed a bit odd, but maybe Americans are just like that. We said thank you and headed to our room. The room was amazing. There was a small living room. 2 bedrooms were connected from either side of it. One bedroom had one large bed. The other had 2 smaller beds, which I assumed were for Jade and I. We went into our room and began to unpack our clothing and other stuff. Shoot, Jade exclaimed from the bathroom about 15 minutes into unpacking. What's the matter? I said. I forgot my toothbrush. I must have left it on my bed at Hogwarts. I'm sure they must have some downstairs. Loads of people must forget their toothbrush. We should ask that woman at the desk. She did tell us to come to her if we need anything. And well, now we do. Yeah, I guess, she replied. I can't believe how foolish I am. We checked with my mom, and then went down to the lobby. We found the same women as earlier, sitting at the desk. I swear, when she saw us I think she smiled evilly just for a second. How can I help you? She said with a creepy, huge grin on her face. Yeah, we need a toothbrush. I left mine behind by mistake. I said for Jade. Jade was the brains, but I was the bravery behind every adventure. We went on. Of course, follow me, she replied. Jade and I looked at each other. Wasn't she supposed to bring us it, not show us where to get one? It couldn't be that big of a deal I suppose. I shrugged and followed the women. Jade caught up to me a few seconds later, so now she was right beside me. We followed her past the restaurant to an area that said, employees only. This didn't seem right, but I followed anyway. Finally, I get you alone, she said when we're inside and the door was shut behind us. She was transforming into some weird creature that looked like an animal with a human head. You foolish hero. You'll be the Lord of Times now. I think that you have the wrong person. I'm just a normal witch, I'm no hero. I said. I was. About to take my wand out of my back pocket when I felt Jade's hand on mine. It was shaking like crazy. You can't. We're in America now. There aren't witches and wizards here. We'll get in trouble by the ministry if we use magic. She said quietly. She was right. We couldn't use magic. We were going to have to get out of here some way that wasn't using magic. I looked around. We were in the supply closet. I saw a lot of toiletries. Some electronic cords and other items like that. She was beginning to gain on us. I reached for the first thing that I could grab, a handful of batteries. I threw them at the monster's face. They hit the monster and gave a huge static reaction. I expected it to just hit the monster, but this was even better. Arg! The monster cried out, while it was moaning in agony. I grabbed Jade and ran towards the door. On the way out, I grabbed a toothbrush. I didn't want to have to come back, or a best friend with bad breath. When we got out of the supply closet, I leaned against the door with all my might. Jade, grab me a chair, fast, I screamed. Jade, still a bit stunned, ran into an empty conference room not that far down the hall. She ran back carrying a folding chair. Does this work? It was all I could find. She cried. It's good enough, I said as I locked the chair onto the handle so the door was locked from the outside. This will be fine for now, I said. Oh, wait here, I yelled to Jade as I ran towards the restaurant. I ran up the desk with a tall man in a hip suit. Can I have a piece of paper and a pen? I asked the man who was standing with the menus. I must have been panting like crazy. Will this work, madam? He said. It's fine, I said as I began to walk out of the restaurant. Thanks, I said. I ran back to Jade as fast as I could. My heart was beating so fast. I leaned the paper against the wall and wrote, "Do not enter." I left the piece of paper with the note on the chair that was holding the door closed. I heard banging and screaming coming from the other side. I grabbed Jade and we ran towards the elevator. When we were inside, I had to ask. What was that? I asked. It doesn't make sense, but I think that it couldn't. But it matches the books. Jade debated with herself. So, I yelled. My heart was beating too fast to be speaking in a close to normal tone. It shouldn't be in America, let alone exist. She began. Just spit it out, I screamed. Gosh, have you ever heard of Greek mythology? She asked. A little, I think. I replied. Well, if I'm correct, that was one of the monsters from it, a manticore. For the 2 days following the attack from the manticore I had been on extreme lookout, but nothing unusual seemed to happen. We had done what I had wanted to do for the past 2 days, so today we were doing what Jade wanted to do. Jade wanted to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, some famous museum in New York City that sounded extremely dull, but Jade, having her personality and interests, insisted that we go. Yesterday my mom developed a serious cold and was stuck in bed. This resulted in Jade and I taking our endeavors on our own. We left early in the morning. I could smell Christmas everywhere I went. It was only 3 days till Christmas, so the city was booming with tourists. The sidewalks were jammed with people glued to mobile phones. There were at least 5 strollers on every block. There were the people who thought that they were better than everyone else and pushed past people. And then there were people like us who were getting pushed all over the place. Jade and I took the subway to the Met. After the attack, we decided that it wasn't good to be alone with any single person. That ruled out taxis, and left us with buses and the subway. We chose the subway because with the packed roads, we weren't going anywhere fast above ground. After about 20 minutes of transporting from here to there, we arrived at the Met. It was a huge building with loads of steps up. People were sitting on the steps eating breakfast. Vendors were trying to sell pretzels at 10 in the morning. When we got into the museum, there was a huge line to get admitted into it. While I waited online, Jade ran up to the circulation desk and grabbed a map. Carolyn, you have to see this. Look at how many exhibits there are. I want to see the Egyptian section, and ancient India one as well. Ooh, look at this. They have a huge Greek section. Carolyn, do you know what this means? An excited Jade exclaimed. Her bright green eyes were glowing. By the end of the day, she'll have memorized this place. No, I replied. The manticore is from Greek mythology. Maybe we'll learn some more about it if we look at the section. Jade said in one of her, "It's so obvious," tones. Oh right, We should go there first. I said. I felt so stupid. She had told me, and I had already forgotten. My head must be made of stone. Can I help you? A short blonde woman sitting at the desk asked. I hadn't even realized that we were at the front of the line. Yes, we would like 2 tickets into the museum, Jade said. She looked down at her computer for a few seconds and then stood up and looked us over. Yes, of course. How old are you? She asked. I'm 14 and she's 15. Jade said. Okay. It will $22. Here are your pins that show that you've paid, she said as she handed us 2 teal-colored pins. We handed her the money and left the desk. We stood off to the side and put on our pins. I put mine on the pocket of my jeans, while Jade put it on her shirt and wore it proudly. We followed the map to the Greek section. It wasn't crowded. A few people scattered across a few rooms. This clearly wasn't the hit of the museum. We walked into what seemed like empty room. There was only one person in it, a boy with black hair. He looked about a little taller than me. He could easily be our age. He seemed like a normal boy, but there was one strange thing about him. He was standing straight in front of one of the statues. He was looking down, and as you got closer you could see that his eyes were closed shut and he was mumbling. Jade, look at the kid. Is that normal? I asked. Carolyn, that's rude, but I must say that is odd, she said while moving her head around as if she was looking. I was about to get closer, but Jade grabbed my hand as to stop me. That's spying. Don't do that. She really knows me way too well. Jade walked over to the other side of the room to look around. I acted like I was going in the other direction, but I couldn't help it. I had to find out what this boy was doing. I checked to make sure that Jade wasn't paying attention to me, and then I walked closer. As I got closer I could begin to hear what he was saying. I just thought I would say thanks for doing all you can for the war. I know that you're doing all you can. I'm sure that sea gods can be very stubborn. Dad, I just wanted you to know that I support you and I want to do anything I can to help. He was saying. What in the world was he talking about? What war? As a witch, I don't follow Muggle news all that much, but something like a war one would know about. And what did he say about sea gods? He was praying to his dad. This made no sense at all. I looked at what he was standing in front of. It was a marble statue of Poseidon, who, if I'm correct, is the god of the sea. Then something bad happened. He opened his eyes and was staring straight at me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I was lost for words. He caught me in action. Out of the corner of my eyes I could see Jade coming towards us. What did you hear? He said with a very serious tone. At this point, Jade arrived. Carolyn, what did you do? She said. Now they were both staring me down. Wow, this was uncomfortable. Well, you were saying something about a war, and sea gods. And who's you, Dad? I asked. Instead of being mad, a look of worry spread across his face. Carolyn, if you had any manners at all, I'm sorry. Jade said angrily. Sometimes she acted like my mom and it got on my nerves. I'm really sorry, I said to the boy. I wanted to change the subject, so I turned to Jade and said, did you find any more information on the manticore? Quote, what about a manticore? The boy said with his eyes opening wide. One attacked us at our hotel. We're from the England, I replied. Oh, thank the gods. My name is Percy and my father is Poseidon. Wait, what? Your father is Poseidon? How's that possible? I asked. This made no sense. The Greek gods are still alive. And they have kids. Although, the big three, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, made an agreement not to have any more kids after World War III. Although, Poseidon and Zeus broke their oath. He said, hold on a sec, you both saw the manticore. Yeah, is that not supposed to happen? I replied, no, it's not. Most people don't see what really happens because of something called mist. The monster must have been after one of you, but the fact that you both saw it is the strange part. We really should move this conversation somewhere more private, he said while looking around for a spot. Jade took out her map. What type of place? Like a restaurant, or something more like the bathroom? Jade asked, scanning the map. More like a bathroom, Percy said. There's a both gendered handicapped bathroom not too far from here. We could go in when no one's watching. Jade replied. Sounds good, Percy said. I nodded to show my approval. We headed towards the bathroom. We all awkwardly entered the bathroom all at once. Okay. These walls seem thick. You both were there when the manticore attacked and you both saw it. Percy said, checking the information. Yes, Jade and I said at unison. We were getting impatient, we wanted answers, and he seemed to supply them. If it helps, we're both witches, I said. You're what? Percy said in disbelief. Witches. There is a whole different world full of witch and wizard families. We don't settle in America though. Jade said. That's impossible. Prove it. Percy said. I slowly got up. I looked to Jade for the okay, and then pulled my wand from my pocket and ripped a piece of paper towel. I am going to make this piece of paper float, okay? I said. He nodded, but looked unsure. Wingardium Leviosa, I said. The piece of paper floated through the air lightly. I hope I wouldn't get in trouble for this back at home. Maybe the ministry didn't watch over America. I looked at Percy. He looked completely stunned. I proved that to you. Now, how do we know that you're actually Poseidon's son? I said with a know-it-all attitude. With Jade around, I never got to do that tone. Fine, I'll prove it to you. Percy walked over the sink. He turned on the water. Suddenly, it started twirling out of the sink and all over the room. Then it went back into the sink. He then turned off the water. Convinced, he said with the same type of voice as I had earlier. So what does this mean? I asked. I'm not quite sure. We have to talk to Chiron, the camp director. Percy said. What camp? Jade asked. Camp Half-Blood. It's where half-bloods go to train. Monsters attack us all the time, that's why we have to train. Half-bloods are people who have a god as one parent, and a normal mortal as the other. What makes you so sure that we're half-bloods? Jade said. Well, you got attacked by the manticore. And you can see through the mist. Percy said. We both can see through mist. I think it might be one of the qualities of a witch. I mean, from what it sounds like, half-bloods are uncommon. What are the chances that we both are half-bloods? Jade said. His head was clearly on overdrive today. You do have a point. As I said, we have to talk to Chiron. We will send him an iris message. Percy said. A what? I asked. An iris message. Look, I'll show you. Percy said while he fished through his pocket for something. He pulled a gold coin out of his pocket. A dramisha. An excited Jade said. Once again, a what? I asked. How many terms in the world could there be to make me look like an idiot? The money of the gods. Percy replied while he turned on the sink. He splashed water so it looked like a screen of water. After that, what happened next was even stranger than the image of someone throwing up slugs. Oh goddess, please accept my offering. Percy said while he tossed the coin into the air. It disappeared and then he said. Chiron, Camp Half-Blood. Suddenly, an image of a man in a wheelchair appeared. Oh, hi Percy, you have others with you. The man said. Yes. Percy told the man the story. How we were attacked, how we were witches, and how we both could see through the mist. While he was telling the man about us, it hit me. I only had a mom. What if my dad was a god? This might be one of the answers to the main question in my life. Who I am. Once Percy was done, the man said. I have heard of such people. I knew an old headmaster of yours, Albus Dumbledore. Yes, they can see through the mist. They also can pass magical borders like half-bloods. Years and years ago when Mt. Olympus moved to New York, there was a huge thing about the wizarding communities. They had them all stay in Europe so that, well, this doesn't happen. But what's done is done. Percy, would it be possible if you could bring them up to camp? But we're here on vacation, W.E. couldn't leave your mom, Jade said before Percy could reply. We'll figure it out, I said. Nothing was going to stop me from finding out who my dad was. I'll get them to camp tomorrow. Percy said. Sounds good. Oh Percy, Annabeth will be here. She's arriving today. She said she was going to iris message you when she got here, but you called before she got here. The man named Chiron said. I looked at Percy when he was saying this. He was blushing furiously. Maybe she was his girlfriend. Bye I guess. Percy said, and with that he waved through the water and the message was over. I'm sorry Jade, but we should get home and talk to my mom about this. Especially because we promised we'd be there tomorrow. I said. Where is Camp Half-Blood? It's in Long Island. Percy said. You're right, we should get going. Percy, if it's okay, you should come with us, you know a lot more about half-bloods than we do. I said. Yeah, that sounds okay. He replied. I guess I'll never see the Egyptian section. Jade said with such depression. I guess we could take a quick peek. I said to make my friend happy. Really, you guys rock, Jade said and hugged me. She would have hugged Percy. Except for the fact that we barely knew him. She shook his hand awkwardly, and then led the way. We followed behind. I had to remember to ask who Annabeth was. I never get good gossip back at school. After we finished visiting the Egyptian section, we walked out to the steps of the museum. It had begun to snow lightly outside. I loved the snow. It always looked beautiful no matter where you were. Bus or subway? I asked Jade. I think the subway. We don't want another yesterday. Jade said. Yesterday, we waited for the bus for 45 minutes, in 20-degree weather. Let's just say, it wasn't fun. Why not a cab? Percy asked. We don't take cabs after the attack. We don't want to be alone with only one person. Jade replied. Don't worry, I have a sword. It's made out of celestial bronze, which means that it can only harm monsters. And not mortals. Unfortunately, half-bloods get harmed by both these swords and normal swords. Percy explained. Are you sure we're safe? I asked. Percy nodded. So we hailed a cab and crammed inside. I gave the cab driver the address, and we sped off. We sat in silence for a few minutes, before I broke it. We couldn't talk about half-bloods because we were in the presence of a mortal, the cab driver. Then, I remembered that I wanted to ask Percy who Annabeth was. That didn't have to do with half-bloods. Who's Annabeth, your girlfriend? I asked. When I said this, he began to blush like he did at the museum. I was sitting in between Percy and Jade, so I got good shots of both of them. Jade was lost in thoughts, while Percy was struggling to get words out. She's just, well, she's a friend. He chalked out. A friend who you have a crush on? I asked. Well, I'm not sure. He managed to get out. Well, you should sort out your feelings. Yo, you don't want to look like a fool in front of her, do you? I said. I was just giving him some basic girl advice. It's a whole long story. She clearly made it just friends at the end of the summer, but Mt. Street. Helen's must have meant something. Percy said to himself. This sounds complicated, even to me, who knows everything. I said, trying to lighten up the mood. That was one thing I was good at. It seemed to work because he began to laugh. So, what's your life like at your school? Percy said a couple minutes later. Nothing too exciting. Our classes are standard wizarding classes, potions, transfiguration, defense against dark arts, and so on. I listed. That sounds a lot better than algebra and history. He said. Do you have a boyfriend or anyone like that? Percy said awkwardly. Yeah, I do. He goes to my school. Actually, you remind me of him a little bit. You both are brave, and you act a bit alike too. At least, from what I can tell, I have just met you. You know, in the wizarding world he's famous. Well, actually, his father is. I said. Thinking about James made me miss him. I wonder what he was doing right now. Maybe he was with his family. After all, the Weasley family is huge. In 6th grade one was on the news as a missing child. It was all across America. People were pointing at me and saying, I think that's him. Is he more famous than that? He said jokingly. He had a huge goofy grin spread across his face. This was the first chance I got to really stare at him in the face. He had these sea green eyes that looked so deep. It almost seemed like there were waves crashing in them. For a second, I got lost in them. How embarrassing. Well, his father saved the whole wizarding community from the darkest wizard ever. Did your father do that? I said. I completely forgot who his father was. Well, no. But he does control water and he can make earthquakes. Plus, he's in history textbooks. Percy said, the grin still on his face. You do have a point. I said. Before the conversation could continue, the cab pulled up to the hotel. We paid and got out. We walked through the lobby and took the elevator up to our room. I led the way through the halls to our room. I felt butterflies bouncing around in my stomach, filled with excitement and nervousness. What if I wasn't the half-blood? What if Jade was? What would this all mean? What would my mom say? I was about to find out. We opened the door of the apartment. Mom was sitting on the couch watching the news. "Hi girls. Oh, you have a guest. Did you make a friend?" My mom asked with a hoarse tone of voice. She didn't sound any better than this morning. She was holding a cup of tea in her hand and was wearing at least 2 sweatshirts. "This is Percy. I began. All of a sudden, I couldn't find words. This never happened. People tell me all the time that I talk too much. Demigod." Percy finished. How did you find out?" My mother coughed out. A look of worry spread across her face. Meanwhile, my heart was screaming, "Yes. You mean," I started. I sat down on the chair across from the couch where my mom took her seat again. "Yes. 16 years ago I took a trip to America. I was a young witch and I wanted to travel the world. I met a nice young man. We spent a lot of time together. When I was about to leave to go home, I found out I was pregnant with you. Only then did he tell me who he truly was. I thought and hoped you would never find out. That's why I never wanted to take you to America. But you were connected to this place. That's why I had to take you. She thought the chances of you finding out were so small. Apparently not small enough," she said sadly while popping a cough drop into her mouth. "Well, that explains a lot," I said cheerfully. I was trying to lighten up the mood. "I assume that you will have to go to Camp Half-Blood." "Right," my mom said while she blew her nose. "How do you know about camp?" I asked. Was she a mind reader or something? I knew she was a bright witch. But not that bright. "Every demigod's mother knows," she said with a small smile. "I guess you're right. My mom knew about camp before me as well," Percy said, thinking back on the past. "We have to leave for camp tomorrow morning. I promised to be back here before we are supposed to return for England in 2 weeks. Also, Jade can come with me. The only question is if you will be fine by yourself," I said. "Don't worry about me. I'm in New York. Once this cold goes away I can go shopping. It's Christmas time. You have nothing to worry about. You go have fun and make new friends," my mom said. "Thanks, Mom," I said as I ran up to her and gave her a really huge hug. This was the happiest moment of life so far. I was now officially one step closer to finding out who I really am. As of right now, I am the first half-witch, half-god, ever. Who's my daddy? Hi again. Once again, thanks for the reviews. Keep them coming. Also, this chapter begins a little bit of the romance in this story. Yes, there is some, and not only Percabeth. I hope this chapter is as good or better as the others. Carolyn's POV. Percy went home shortly after the discussion with my mom. After that, Jade and I got to packing. We went to bed early because we knew we had to get up early to go to camp. The next morning we got up early to meet Percy at the Empire State Building at 9 in the morning. When we got there Percy was already there with his mother. "Hi," I said with way too much excitement. "Hey," Percy said. "Oh, this is my mom." A woman that resembled him slightly stepped out of the car. "Nice to meet you," Jade said and shook her hand. "Thanks for driving us," I said as I shook her hand. When I grabbed her hand something weird happened. A static shock went through my hand into hers. She pulled back. "Sorry," I said. "I do that sometimes. I don't know why." "It's no problem," she replied while shaking her hand. We all got into the car. Percy sat in the front and Jade and I sat in the back. "So, Percy told me briefly about you guys," Percy's mom said about 15 minutes into the ride. "Well, there isn't much to tell," I said modestly. "I'm sure there is," she replied sweetly. The conversation went dead for a little while, and then Percy's mom began to talk to Percy. "Percy, you don't seem as excited as usual. Is something wrong?" "No, nothing's wrong," Percy said while staring out the window. "Does it have to do with Annabeth? Ever since last summer, you have been all awkward when I mention her. Is something wrong between you two?" she asked. "Nothing, Mom. Don't worry," he said while he turned around so that I could see his face. His expression was clear. "Help. So, what's it like living in New York? America is just so different that Europe." Aid desperately trying to change the subject. That conversation lasted us until we got to Long Island. The rest of the car ride was overall silent. Eventually we pulled up to an empty hill. It looked like a large plain, but with a tree in the center of it. Are you sure we're in the right place? I asked. Yep. Come on. Bye Mom. Percy said. Be safe. Have fun. Iris message me when you know what's going on. Bye. His mom said as she pulled off. We began to walk up the hill. Percy and I began chatting on the way up. Jade on the other hand was completely silent. She looked odd as well. I wonder what's up with her. We seemed to have walked past some magical border, because suddenly a camp was visible. There was a thin layer of snow was on the ground. You could see cabins were spread in a U shape. It looked like a camp. We walked to a large main white house. This is the main house. Percy explained while we knocked on the door. The door swung open and a blonde girl ran out and hugged Percy. Percy, I've missed you, the girl said. Percy looked awkward. He also was blushing. I'm guessing this is Annabeth. I said with a smile. Yeah, Annabeth, Carolyn, Annabeth, Jade, Annabeth. Percy did the introductions. Hello. I see Seaweed Brain has mentioned me. Annabeth said insecurely. I thought I could see a hint of jealousy, but I didn't want to get into it. Don't worry, it's all good stuff. I said, trying to make her happy. Annabeth had curly golden blonde hair and pure gray eyes. Unlike me, who had red auburn hair and bright blue eyes. But like her, I also have curly hair. Then, the man who was in the message from yesterday came up to the door. Unlike yesterday, he wasn't in a wheelchair anymore. He now had the lower half of a horse. He must be a centaur. Ah, Percy, you have arrived, and you have brought them. Good, now our meeting can begin, he said. He then led us into a room with a table. There were a couple of other kids who were sitting at the table. We took our seats next to Percy and Annabeth. The meeting began. Percy explained the new information, how I was the half-blood. Do we know the parentage? Chiron asked. No, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. I said. Just then, thunder cracked. I looked around the table. Everyone's jaws were dropping except for Jade, who looked just as confused as me. It seems another heir of the Big Three has come. Chiron said. What? I asked. I knew who the Big Three were, and their oath. You are the daughter of Zeus, king of gods, Chiron said as he pointed to the lightning bolt above my head. Does that mean I'm not supposed to exist? I asked. No one answered that question. Then it clicked. This answered everything. Why when I shake people's hand they get a shock? It also answers. Why the batteries statically attack the manticore back at the hotel? Well, that answers that question. Percy said. They talked about how I would be moving into cabin 1 and that Jade would have to stay in the Hermes cabin because Zeus wouldn't want her in there. They told me about the prophecy and the war against the Titans. I was younger than Percy by a couple of months, so that unless something happened to Percy, the prophecy wouldn't be about me. This concludes our meeting. Dinner will be in a few hours, Chiron said. Kids began to get up. Percy tapped me on the shoulder and said, congrats on getting claimed. Thanks, I said with a smile. So this prophecy sounds scary. It is, but I've gotten used to it hanging over my head, he replied. Then Annabeth came up to us. Hey, can I borrow Percy? She gave me a stare with her gray eyes that almost scared me. Yeah, sure. I have to go check on Jade anyway. See you guys later, I said to them. I turned around and began to walk toward Jade, who seemed to be having a conversation with a girl. Out of the corner of my eye I could see Percy and Annabeth walking out. Jade, are you okay? I asked as I approached her and the girl she was talking to. Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, this is Selena. She is a daughter of Aphrodite. Jade said. I'm glad she's making friends. Hi, she said. Hi, I returned. After that, I left them to their conversation. I was about to grab my bag and head to my cabin, but something stopped me. I was about to walk outside, but then I heard Annabeth and Percy talking. I'm sorry about the end of last summer. I was just confused. I could hear Annabeth say. Percy said. I could hear Annabeth moving closer to him. That day on Mt. Street, Helen's, she said. I have to ask, do you still like Luke? Percy asked. I could hear some sadness in his voice. I wonder who Luke is. No, I can't forgive him for what he did anymore, Annabeth said. I then heard Percy mumble something. I couldn't tell what he said, but whatever it was, it worked. There was some silence. Could they be kissing? My curiosity got the best of me and I had to look. I peeked my head out the door. They were. Carolyn, Percy said a few seconds after I began watching. Oh sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you or anything, I said, trying to talk myself out of this. I seem to always get into trouble, but I never could talk myself out of it. Percy must have been staring at me or something because Annabeth said, "You like her?" Anger could be detected all around her. No, I don't. No offense, Percy said. Then why are you staring at her still? Annabeth asked. She had her hand crossed across her chest and was staring down at Percy, who looked like he was going to die. I'm going to be leaving and getting out of your way, I said. I quickly grabbed my bags and began walking towards my cabin. A few seconds later, Jade caught up to me. Do you know what those two are talking about? All I heard them say was, I promise I don't like her. Besides, she has a boyfriend. It's not you, right? Carolyn, what did you do? She asked. As usual, Jade was right. I explained to her what happened. All she did was shake her head. As I got closer to the cabins, I turned around to see what was going on. I saw them holding hands. I hope things are better. After all, they do make a cute couple. What do you think? Did I do the romance thing okay? Tell me. What I'm trying to say is please review. A new quest. Hello people. As usual, I want to thank you for all of the reviews. Without them I don't think that I could continue to write this story. So please continue to review. Also, sadly, winter break is almost over, which means no time to write way too much homework. I will try to fit time to write in, but there aren't any promises. On weekends I'll have more time, so expect updates then. On that note, I'll continue with the story. Oh also, this is the first chapter that isn't in Carolyn's POV. Starting now, the POV will switch much more often. Enjoy smiley face. Percy's POV. I lay in my bed unable to sleep. If this were a week ago, today would be the best day of my life. Finally, I was with Annabeth, the girl who until today I was sure I liked, and not just as a friend. But now, I'm not so sure. Now there is Carolyn. No, what am I thinking? I can't like her. She has a boyfriend, who I'm pretty sure she likes. Besides, I like Annabeth. This must have been the 100th time I have debated this with myself tonight. I could see Aphrodite laughing at me. I decided to see what time it was. Last time I checked it was 12:30. I looked at my watch. It read 1:15 a.m. That's just great, I muttered to myself. I decided I couldn't sleep and I got up. I grabbed a towel and walked out of my cabin. I walked past all of the cabins down to the stream. It was the best place to think. I placed the towel down on the sand. I sat down and looked up at the stars. At camp, you could see them much better than in the city. I could see basic constellations. I even found the newest edition, the Hunter, aka Zoe Nightshade. Hey boss, can't sleep, a voice said in my head. Blackjack, I replied telepathically. I don't have any sugar cubes on me right now. That's fine. Is everything okay, boss? He said. He could read my thoughts, so he knew when something was troubling me. Yeah, I said, distracted. I wasn't in the mood to talk to the Pegasus. He could sense my mood, so shortly after he left, I must have fallen asleep because I woke up and I saw the sun rising above the water. I grabbed the towel I was sleeping on and ran back to my cabin. I fell asleep in my bed for another hour or so until I had to wake up to start the day. I got dressed and walked out of my cabin. Kids were already beginning to walk to the mess hall. I began to walk up when someone came up and tapped me on the shoulder. I twirled around to find Carolyn standing right behind me. Whoa Percy, are you okay? You don't look so good, she said as a look of worry spread across her face. Honestly, I didn't feel good, but now wasn't the time to think about that. Yeah, I'm fine. I couldn't sleep, I said, continuing up towards the mess hall. Before Carolyn could say anything else, Annabeth came up. Good morning seaweed brain. Hi Carolyn, she said as she kissed my cheek. I couldn't help but smile. So, I'm going to go find Jade. Carolyn said, trying to get out of our way. After last night, I don't think that she feels that comfortable with being with Annabeth. What about me? Jade said as she approached us after hearing her name. I was going to look for you. But now I guess I don't have to. Carolyn said. We stood in silence for a few seconds until Jade and Annabeth got into a conversation about something about the architecture of T. He Wizarding World, and they began to walk off. That left me alone with Carolyn, who looked slightly uncomfortable, which I could tell was unusual for her. From what I could tell about her, she made friends easily and could make conversations with about anyone. It must have been a quality of her mom's, because her father wasn't like that at all. I'm sorry about last night. I have a tendency to spy on people. You don't know how many times I've gotten into detention because of it. She apologized. It's really okay, I said. We walked up to the mess hall together. Like last year, camp was much quieter. There was a quarter of the kids here than at summer. I sat down alone at the Poseidon table. Wow, I miss Tyson. He was needed now more than ever down at the forges so he could build weapons for the war. Suddenly, I felt something press up against my back. It was Carolyn, who was sitting alone at her table. Thank the gods that the Poseidon table is next to the Zeus one. Lonely too? I asked her. She had to deal with the same thing that I have too. A bit. I wish they could just let you and me sit at the same table. I mean, we're both sitting alone. She said. Oh, I have an idea. Scoot backwards and sit like I'm sitting. She was sitting on the bench like she was riding a horse. I copied her. As long as you face my direction, we can talk. She said. Wow, I never thought of this. How did you come up with this? I asked. Besides being in slight discomfort, this was a pretty smart idea. I may not be very good at schoolwork and stuff, but I am quite good at schemes and ways around things. Another reason for my frequent detentions. She said with a smile. We ate breakfast in this position and talked about various things. I told her about Tyson, Grover, who according to Chiron was spreading the word of Pan's death. Nico, and her half-sister Talia. She told me about some weird sport called Quidditch, and spelling. Closing parenthesis. If you ever come to visit me back home, I'll show you what Quidditch is. She said. Before I could reply, Chiron called our attention. He told us the schedule and the basic morning stuff. As people began to get up and leave, he said, could all cabin leaders come to the main house? As well as Jade and Carolyn. That includes us, I said. We began to walk up to the main house when Annabeth and Jade caught up to us. I saw your new way of sitting, Annabeth said disapprovingly. Oh yeah, I said. Does anyone know what this meeting is about? They all shook their heads. I guess we'll find out, Carolyn said cheerfully. When we got to the main house, the Stoll twins and Selena were already there. Everyone else piled in shortly after us. Conversation was all around. Does anyone know what this about? Someone asked. I heard that it's about a quest, but I don't know. Someone else said. The word quest made me perk up. Before any more detail could be guessed, Chiron walked inside. All of the questions were about to be answered. We are here to discuss a new quest. Everyone sat up straight in his or her seats. When Zeus claimed you, Carolyn, Kronos found out about the Wizarding World. Since he was a Titan, it was before the witches and wizards. Then he was put in Tartarus. So he never found out about them. Now he has. We're sure that he'll want to get them on his side. They are very powerful because they are equal to a whole society of demigods. We could really use them on our side. So you want me to go back and try to get them to join our side? Carolyn cut in. Yes, you and Jade, as well as some other half-bloods. You will get choose 2 more half-bloods to join you. Normally only 3 can go on quests, but since Jade isn't a half-blood, she doesn't count. Chiron said. I'll go, I said, standing up. Carolyn gets to choose seeing as this is her quest. Chiron said. Percy can come, as well as Annabeth, if that's okay. I could see her trying to make amends with Annabeth. Besides, she didn't know anyone else besides us two. I'll come, Annabeth said. Annabeth wasn't someone who would turn down a quest, even if the leader weren't her favorite person. That settles it. You will leave on Christmas Day. This gives you some time to plan. As well as it gives Carolyn time to train. Carolyn, you can see the Oracle now. The oracle is upstairs. Come speak to me after you are done. Chiron said. Carolyn went upstairs. He dismissed us a minute later. I began going to sword practice, always flashing a glance back at the main house. I'm sorry if you think that the first half of the chapter was dull. It wasn't my best. Anyways, please review. The mummy becomes alive again. Hey, sorry that I haven't updated in a while. Thank you so much for the reviews. Anyways, here is the next chapter. I hope you like this chapter, and remember to please review. This chapter involves the prophecy, and I'm really terrible with coming up with prophecies, so I apologize. Carolyn's paw. I walked up the long flight of stairs to reach the attic. I opened the door to find an old dusty room. There were a number of random items all over. The room looked like it belonged in a horror film. I was looking at some shoe when my eye caught sight of the creepiest thing of all. A mummy-looking body. Ew. I might enjoy talking to ghosts back at school, but that was the only thing I wanted to do with the dead. Oracle. I began. The mummy twitched a little and opened what mouth it had, and a green mist came out. She said something about being an oracle of Delphi, but then got to the point. 4 will travel to the east. They will have to unravel the way before the end of the year. Only then will the answer become clear. The mist disappeared back into its mouth, and the mummy became still once again. What type of answer was that? I needed more information. What does that mean? I demanded. I stood there for about 3 minutes until I decided that there was no use. That mummy wasn't going to tell me anything more than it has already. Oh, bugger yay. I used a British term. I walked down the stairs only to find Chiron reading something. He noticed me and looked up. Carolyn, what did she say? Chiron asked. I told him WH. It had said, I just couldn't think of it as a she, and he nodded. Considering some past prophecies, this one isn't bad at all. Chiron said. To me it just sounds confusing. Like we have to solve a mystery. And I'm not good at solving mysteries, I only like the answers. Maybe so. However, there is no time to dwell, you'll find out what it means soon enough. Go inform your quest mates of the prophecy. Remember, you will be leaving in just a matter of days. Chiron explained. I ran out of the big house in search of my friends. I first found Jade, who was showing some of the Hermes kids some magic. She was using a spell to throw the swords out of their hands, normally used for disarming wizards, but it worked all the same. They were all in awe. It was nice to see Jade making friends with people. Jade was shy, so it wasn't often that she made friends without me or one of our other friends. That stuff is easy. You should see what the Aurors do. Oh hey, Carolyn, what did the oracle say? It wasn't a surprise that Jade was showing off. Jade wasn't one to brag, but when it came to smarts, nothing was stopping her saying what she had to say. I told her what the oracle had said. For once she didn't give some wise words. She clearly didn't know much about how prophecies worked, so I just went on my way to find Percy and Annabeth and left her to show off to the campers. I ran through the camp in a search for Percy or Annabeth. I checked the archery range, not there. It's not like they would be there though. Percy is terrible at archery, from what I hear. I haven't seen him act to. Ally do it, he almost hit once of the Demeter kids. I checked a number of places until I found both Percy and Annabeth in the arena. Percy was sparring with some kid I didn't know, while Annabeth was sitting in the stands shining her blade. When they both noticed me, they stopped what they were doing and ran up to me. Percy got to me first. What did the oracle say? Percy said with a tone of excitement in his voice. I told them what the oracle had said. After I told them, they sighed with relief. You're lucky. That's a good prophecy. There isn't any death or betrayal involved. So how are we going to get to London? Percy said. We were now sitting in the stands. Jade had found us and joined in on the conversation. Well, I was thinking we could take a plane. I said to everyone. Then I turned to Jade. I mean, we can't take flu powder because we're in America, and we can't fly on brooms all the way there. Jade nodded while the other two looked absolutely confused by the terms, flu powder, and brooms. Although I'm sure that they know what brooms are, just not the wizarding use for them. I'm not quite sure that will work. I can't fly. Zeus would blast that plane or whatever. Else I'm flying on right out of the sky. One of the major downfalls of being the son of Poseidon. Percy said. Annabeth nodded in agreement. I don't think we can go in water either, because of Carolyn. Annabeth said, looking stumped. Besides, it would take too long. Didn't the prophecy mention something about, before the new year? Jade asked. Yeah, boating wouldn't work because of the time, not the water. I think this time we can find a way around the flying. Zeus wouldn't just blast his newly claimed daughter right out of the sky. I mean, I don't think he would. Right, I said. I know he is short-tempered, but I don't think he would do that. I think you're right. It's a bit risky, but we are leaving the country, so that gives us an advantage. Annabeth said. It was agreed. We'd take a flight to London on Christmas. Percy seemed to be very nervous about the idea, but he eventually warmed up to it. What are we going to do when we get there? Annabeth asked. I haven't quite figured that much out, I said while I turned to Jade. Don't worry, we'll come up with a plan. Jade said. On that note, I will end the chapter. I don't think that this chapter was my best, and I may eventually rewrite it, but for now here it is. I have some great ideas for the next chapter, so stay tuned. Sorry that this one is shorter than my others, the next one should be on the longer side. I will try to update faster in the future. Schoolwork takes up a ton of time. In the next chapter, I hope to have them begin their quest. Anyways, please review. I love reviews, plus they make me really happy. So make me happy and review, smiley face. An owl carries mail. Thanks you reviewers. I think I have been a bit boring with my gratitude, so I would address you individual to spice things up. Athens GRL, thank you. Jade will have a POV sometime. I'm not quite sure when, but I promise soon. Annabeth is just being jealous. I'm not telling if she gets over it though. La Tua Cantante 101. Thanks for loving the story. Thanks for the flow powder spelling. My school too. Thanks. Yeah, it wasn't my best. Hopefully this chapter will be better. Thanks for reviewing on most of my chapters. It's reviewers like you that keep this story going. Olympian Chef 213. Thanks. That's a good idea. Thanks for reviewing almost every chapter. I greatly appreciate it. Cullen Girl 76. Thanks. I hope this chapter is as great as the others. And with that, here is the next chapter. Carolyn's POV. A couple of days had passed by quickly, and soon enough it was Christmas Day. It was 7 a.m. and Chiron had us gathered on the hill to have the camp van take us to the airport. Jade and I packed for the millionth time and had our bags ready to go. It was a sunny day, which was good because that meant that there shouldn't be any delays on the planes. When I got to the hill, I found Annabeth already there. She was staring off into the sky. When she noticed me, she looked at me for a second, and then went back to her thoughts. Shortly after, Jade and Percy arrived at the van at the same time, trudging up the hill. Jade, I might add, was groaning. Merry Christmas, I said cheerfully when they arrived. Everyone returned with the same response. We began to load our bags in the van when Chiron caught up to us. I hope you guys are ready, he said. We are, I think, I replied. He nodded with an encouraging smile. Carolyn, I know that. You don't think you need a sword because you have a wand. Chiron started. The other day they tried to get me fitted for a sword, and a couple of them worked, but I told them I didn't want one. I have a wand and that's all I really need. This is a gift from your father, I hope you find it useful. He handed me a large hair clip that was in the shape of a lightning bolt. There was a small button on the back. I pressed it and it turned into a dagger. Wow, he gave this to me. I asked. I couldn't believe my father gave a gift to me. It was so unexpected. Yes, I'm sure it will come in handy when fighting off monsters. Chiron replied. Almost like mine, Percy said, staring at it. I nodded as I pressed the button again as it turned back into a large hair clip. I pulled my hair back and placed the pin in. It fit perfectly. I said a silent thanks to my dad as I said goodbye to Chiron and climbed into the van. Jade followed right behind me. Percy and Annabeth were talking with Chiron for a few minutes before they too got into the van. We sat in silence for a while, until something important popped into my mind. I should let my mum know that we'll be back in England, so she can just meet us there. I could try Iris messaging, I guess. I said. Yeah, you should, Jade said, smiling. She looked like she was in a good mood. Does anyone have a dramasha? I asked. Percy fished through his pocket. and finally came across one and handed it to me. "Thanks," I said. "No problem," he replied. He made a screen of water for me with the moisture in the air, and soon enough an image of my mum came into view. "Hey Mum," I said through the screen. She was reading a book in bed. If I could see correctly, it was The Guild to Perfecting Potions. She wrote books for a living, and could always be found reading. "Oh Carolyn, is everything okay? I see everyone's with you," she said with a smile. "Yes, everything is fine. We are going back to England for a quest, so I just wanted to let you know that you can just meet me back at home." I said. "Okay, that's good news. I might be staying a little while longer. I send you an owl when I know the exact day. You might be going back to school on your own, if that's okay. How have you been?" she said. "Great Mum. I'll be looking for your owl. How have you been? Keeping yourself busy, I hope?" I asked. My mum and I are more like friends than mother and daughter. That's just how a relationship works. It might be because of the fact that until I went to Hogwarts, it was always just her and I. "Yes, I went shopping. I have Christmas gifts for you and Jade actually, which I will give you when I see you guys next. I also met someone," she said the last part softly. "That's great Mom. Well, I should be going," I said to her. "Oh, of course, well take care. Let me know if you need anything, and I will send an owl when I know when I'm coming home." I nodded, and with that I waved my hand through and ended the message. We sat in silence for a few moments until Percy got the urge to speak. "What do owls have to do with anything?" he asked. I sat up to find him staring at me. Well, in the wizarding world, we send letters by owls. There is no such thing as the post office, where we come from," I explained. "How does that work?" Annabeth asked. Jade took over from there and they got into a huge discussion. Percy looked at me and shrugged. Soon enough we were at the airport and were dropped off to fend for ourselves. We dragged our luggage up to the desk. "We would like 4 tickets for England, please," Annabeth asked for us. Annabeth was the only one who actually knew what she was doing, so we agreed that she would be the best to make the arrangements. We had no access to a computer or anything that would let us buy tickets in advance. We could only hope that there would be seats. She looked at us funny and then said, "Yes, of course. We do have some seats available for our 10:30 flight. We have 2 seats in row 12 next to each other, and then we have 2 more in row 23. Will that be okay?" "Yes, that sounds fine," Annabeth said with a smile plastered on her face. "I will need to see your passports, and what is your form of payment?" the woman asked while typing away on her computer. "Cash," Annabeth replied while we all began digging through our bags in search of our passports. We handed them to her and she took about 5 minutes typing away. She eventually handed us 4 boarding passes and returned our passports. We gave her our money and had her check our bags. We were on our way. Sorry that this chapter was short. The next one is the flight, so I promise it will be long. I'm rereading the 6th Harry Potter book for inspiration, more facts about the wizarding world, and for fun of course. Anyways, when you read it you see how close in personality Harry and Percy are. Their attitude towards things and their responses and everything. They're even described to look almost similar. Anyways, I find it absolutely awesome and hilarious, so I am totally going to make James like a mini Harry for fun. They don't tell you all that much about him in the epilogue, which is much more fun, so now I can create his personality when he is in the story again. Yes, you will be meeting him again in a couple of chapters. I also love how they have a Percy in each book, and you will see that coming into play later as well. That's all the foreshadowing you're going to get for now. Carrot. Oh, I'm thinking of changing my pen name. I just wanted to let you know that it's the same story. Greek Mythology Louver 7 for now. The Plane Part 1. Thank you so much for the reviews. I especially want to thank those who gave me comments on my writing. I want to be a journalist when I'm older, and so reviews about my writing are the best. Anyways, here's the chapter. Carolyn's POV. Boarding for Flight 304 to London, England will begin now. All first-class passengers may now board, the flight attendant said into the microphone. I looked over my friends to see their reaction. Jade stuck her head out of her book and looked up. Annabeth had her arm around Percy's shoulder. Percy looked a little nervous, which seemed unusual for him. "Percy, are you okay?" I asked him. He nodded in return. "He's just nervous because last time he took a plane Zeus told him the next plane he took would be blasted out of the sky," Annabeth said with a sympathetic smile. "In that case, you have nothing to worry about, it's us who do," I said, trying to lighten up the mood. All of them, including Jade now, looked at me like I was insane. "We're flying over the ocean. If we get blasted out of the sky, he's going to have to save us." Percy formed a small smile while Annabeth and Jade both looked like they were trying to figure how that would work. Soon enough we boarded the plane. Percy and Annabeth took the seats in row 12 while Jade and I took the seats in row 23. We decided that we would switch seats every few hours, since the flight was 7 hours and 15 minutes long. Plus, this way everyone could sit next to everyone at some point. Carolyn's paused still. After about an hour into the flight, nothing all that exciting had happened. Jade was glued to some book called Twilight. When I asked her what it was about, she showed me the cover and explained it to me. To me it sounded like a whiny girl's pathetic love story, but Jade couldn't stop reading it. I tried to get her to talk to me, but the combination of her loving her book and the type of person she is, it wasn't going to work. Jade was the type of person who would talk to you when she wanted to. She wouldn't talk to me until she finished her book or had something to say. I decided to take out my iPod. Most witches and wizards don't have iPods. Even though, over the years the wizarding world has gotten closer to the Muggle world, not a lot of wizards have iPods, although some do. Stuff like that is determined on the family. My mom writes books about the Muggle and wizarding worlds compared, so this makes us have more Muggle items than other families, for example, an iPod. We also have computer, which is really unusual for wizarding families. That's why my friends love to come to my house, so they can play on the amazing electronic box. I put on the small white headphones. I turned the music to one of my favorite Muggle songs, Holiday, by Green Day. I like alternative music the best. I don't mind pop, but I hate rap. I mean, really don't like it. After listening to a number of songs, Jade decided she wanted to talk to me. Carolyn. Jade started. "Yeah, what's up?" I asked while pulling out my headphones. "Do you like Percy?" she asked. "As a friend, yeah, he's a nice guy," I replied. "I think I know where this is going." Well, see, Jade chalked the words out. "You like Percy," I said. I may not be the best reader of books, but I could read. Jade and the rest of my friends like books. I had this suspicion for a while, but she just confirmed it. Yeah, how do you know?" she asked. "I guessed when you started acting all quiet for a while. That's what you did when you liked Jeff." Jeff is a kid in Ravenclaw that Jade had a crush on all of last year. She said she got over it, but I don't completely believe that. "You have just one problem, Annabeth." "I know. I don't think I'm going to do anything about it, it's just a crush." "Please don't tell," she said with a soft voice. "Who would I?" I began just when Annabeth came over. "Hey Annabeth, what's up?" I asked. Jade just waved. "I'm going to the bathroom, but the line is huge," she said. She was now at the end of the line, which is where our seat managed to fall. There were only 30 rows on the plane, so we were towards the back. "Yeah, so is Percy feeling better?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "Yeah, I think," she said with a large smile. "That's good," Jade chipped in. Suddenly, the line began to move. "Oh look, the line's moving. Oh, by the way, the food cart's coming." We waved and she walked in front. Annabeth was right. In about 10 minutes, the food came. We ate our food, and then noticed that it was time to switch seats. Percy's paw, meanwhile, I hour down, 6 hours and 15 minutes left. I looked at Annabeth. She was reading a book about architecture. The light shone on her face and her golden hair so beautifully. Despite my nervousness, I couldn't help but smile while looking at her. She noticed me looking and said, "Hey seaweed brain, what's up?" she said with one of her really bright smiles. I couldn't help but kiss her. We went in for a kiss that lasted about 3 seconds before she broke it and said, "Let me save my page." She folded the corner of the page and put the book on the floor and then pulled into another kiss. "So, what do you want to do?" I asked after a few kisses. "I mean, Kissing Annabeth is fun, but we can't just do that for hours, can we? I don't know, Annabeth said while looking out the window. He got the window seat while I got the aisle seat. I looked down the aisle. I wanted to see if I could see Carolyn or Jade, but there were babies crawling around the aisle, and parents trying to keep them from getting too far away. Hey Annabeth, I asked. She said, turning to look at me. How are we going to convince these wizards to join the cause? What if they don't want to? I asked. This thought had been bugging me for the past few days. I don't know. We really should talk to Carolyn and Jade about this. They know more than I do, she replied with a concerned look on her face. Our conversation lasted a few minutes longer. She soon went back to her reading, while I took out my iPod Touch. My mom had gotten it for me as an early Christmas gift. I began to play Tap Tap, my favorite app. After a few songs, I noticed Annabeth watching me play. When the song finished, I asked, "Do you want to play two-player?" "Sure. How do you play?" she replied with a playful grin. Playing anything with Annabeth was always a ton of fun because both of us hated to lose and we always managed to be evenly matched. I taught her how to play, and as usual, she was pretty good at it. We played about 2 songs when the food cart came around. Once they were done serving, Annabeth had to go to the bathroom. "Tell Carolyn and Jade that I say hi," I said to Annabeth right before she became out of view. She nodded, and walked off. This left me alone to sit and think. I couldn't help but be excited to switch seats soon. I love sitting next to Annabeth and all, but part of me wanted to sit next to Carolyn. I really need to sort this out. Yay, a love triangle. Jade likes Percy, who likes Annabeth and Carolyn likes James, our friend who will be returning in the near future. Stay tuned to find out what will happen to my little pawns, laughs evilly. I kept to my personal promise that this chapter would be long. And remember, please review The Plane Part 2 Bedtime. Hi readers of fanfiction. Thanks for the reviews. I will now go on and thank you individually. Olympian Chef 213. No, I don't think that I'm Kronos, that the gods. For a few reasons. 1. I am female. I hope this doesn't shock anyone. 2. I am happy and nice, not evil, like you Kronos. 3. I like sugar, so how could someone so sour, like our evil golden-eyed friend, like sugar? Thanks for reviewing, by the way. La Tua Cantante 101. Thanks. I hope this is fast enough for your satisfaction. I'm trying my hardest to find time to write. My school too. Thanks. Eno Ice Queen. Thanks. I agree that the second these charact RS walked into the world of fanfiction, they were in for it. Maddie 8. I know, I just thought that since Carolyn's dad is Zeus I could just push the buttons a tiny bit. And besides, they are going to England to help Zeus, so I considered a boat, but it would take too long for what I have mapped out for the rest of the story, but I understand your concern. __. Now, on with the story. I hope you like this chapter. Carolyn's POV. We switched, so now I was sitting next to Percy. I was now sitting next to the window on row 12. Part of me wanted to look back to see if Jade and Annabeth were having the A.W.K. Ward silence Percy and I were experiencing, but I couldn't quite get my neck to turn that far. I sifted through the different possible ways to break an awkward silence, but none seemed appropriate with Percy sitting next to me. I let out a large sigh, which seemed to get his attention. So, how was your first part of the flight? Percy asked. Fine, I suppose, I said, looking down at my lap. I think is one of the first times I could find words. Jade would be shocked. After sitting silently for about 5 more minutes, a topic to talk about popped into my head. I turned around from looking at the window to find Percy staring at me. Whoa Percy, is something wrong? It might have sounded a bit harsh, but he was staring at me as if I was Aphrodite or something. No, nothing. Sorry, I go lost in a train of though, he said, shaking his head and looking away. You wanted to know about Quidditch, right? I asked. He turned around to face me again. Yeah, I did. You said something about flying. He asked, looking perplexed. It's more than that, I began as I tried my best to explain the game in great detail. I ended up taking a picture that I had in bag of James and I playing Quidditch, which prompted him with more questions. Why is the picture moving? he asked as he observed the fact that the scenery in the background kept on changing and I was actually waving. That's how magical photography works. It moves, I said, pointing towards the picture. Who's that? Is that? He asked, pointing to James. Yeah, that's James. He the seeker for the Gryffindor team, just like his father and grandfather. I said with a smile. I'm excited to see him. Soon. That's the one who catches the gold ball, right? He asked. I nodded. Yes, exactly. You're catching on, you know. I said with a nod. Are you on the team? He asked. Yeah, I'm a chaser, the one who tries to score goals with the quaffle. I said. I always wondered why I was so good at flying since my mom is awful at it, but now I know, with who my dad is. How could I not be? I realized. He nodded in agreement. Is Jade on the team? He asked. No, I think that it's the only thing she's not good at. None of my close friends besides are on the team. James's best mate Ralph is on the team though, and I am good friends with him as well. The point is I'm not alone. I said with a smile. I never realized how lucky I am to have that many friends on the team. That conversation soon died out and the atmosphere soon returned to silence. Most of the plane were either sleeping or watching the movie. After about 15 minutes of silence, I looked over at Percy to find him sleeping. I noticed he was drooling. I shook my head in sarcastic disappointment, and looked up at the screen. It looked they were beginning the next movie of the flight, and decided to watch. It appeared that they were playing Get Smart. The movie was really amusing and funny, but like Percy, I soon got tired and fell asleep. Jade's pa, meanwhile, I was still reading my book when Annabeth came over. If this were Carolyn, I would continue to read, but this was Annabeth. I didn't want to seem rude or antisocial. Many of my friends complain about that. Hi, oh, you're reading Twilight. I've heard about it. I want to read it, but I've been busy with other books. Is it good? She asked. I knew Annabeth was smart and liked to read, but I was surprised to find someone who wanted to have a literary discussion with me. When I mention anything to do with reading around Carolyn, she pretends to get a headache. Sometimes that girl can be so immature. I like it. It's not the best, but not horrible either. I said, content with my answer. She said, deep in thought. I'm sure I'll read it eventually. Yeah, I have some reading for History of Magic. So you can borrow this if you'd like. I said. I didn't actually have any History of Magic homework I finished a week ago. Carolyn on the other hand hasn't, but I enjoy reading the textbook anyway. I have my own book. So don't stop on my accord, she said while pulling out a book entitled The Great Architecture of the World. Honestly, I don't have any homework, I just enjoy reading my textbooks. I confessed. I do as well. Do you have any more textbooks? I really want to understand the magical world, she said. None of my friends ever want to have anything to do with textbooks. Finally, a friend, or almost one, who has similar interests as me. I don't have all of my textbooks with me. I only have astronomy, charms, history of magic, and potions on me. I said, beginning to rummage through my bag. I'll take potions. Sounds interesting, she said, taking the book out of my hand. That's the only subject that Carolyn's better at than me, except for flying, which is another story, I said while looking at the potions textbook now in her hands. Carolyn's mom is really good at potions, so that's why she's good at it. She inherited the talent. We read textbooks for a while until dessert came around. It was bread pudding, Carolyn's favorite. Carolyn must be thrilled. She loves bread pudding. I said. She shouldn't get that excited, it's airplane food. Annabeth said, looking down at thick piece of bread pudding in front of her. Carolyn could almost eat anything, I said, shaking my head in disappointment. We both laughed at that. After finishing our desserts, Annabeth said, I'm going to check on Seaweed Brain and Carolyn, see what they're up to. I nodded in agreement and went back to my reading. After 5 minutes she came back laughing. Guess what? They are both sleeping. Carolyn is sleeping against the window, and Percy is resting his head on his arm. That's going to hurt when he wakes up, she said laughing, and I joined in. I could just picture it. And guess what else? Percy's drooling as usual, as Carolyn. She does everything from snoring to sleepwalking. I asked. I can't count how many times I have woken up in the morning to find her either on TV He floor or on someone else's bed, sometimes mine. No, but it looked like she was muttering. I couldn't hear what she was saying though. We read for a while longer. Before long I too began to get tea. I read and fell asleep to the sound of the pilot's voice. Please review. I think that this was one of my better chapters, but what do you think? I want to know. I'll try to update soon. Smiley face. Welcome home. Hey peeps. What's up? Anyways, here is the next chapter. Thanks for all of the wonderful reviews. Eno Ice Queen. I actually didn't think of him flooding the plane, but thanks for the great idea. I Don. T think I'm going to use it on the plane, but he might flood someplace else. Athens GRL. First off, I want to thank you for reviewing and subscribing. To answer the question of more people, I completely understand. Which is why that I plan to have 2 more main characters beside one's James join the story in a few chapters. So just stay tuned for a few more chapters. Miss X. Thanks, I'm glad you like it. My school too. Thanks. I agree that they would make great friends. They are just so similar. Cullen Girl 76. Thanks so much. I won't say how much or if any Carolyn X Percy stuff will go on, but I don't want to disappoint you. La Tua Cantante 101. Thanks. Yay capital letters. The Nemean Lion. Thanks. My friends and I have the Twilight battle daily. The bashing side often wins. Smiley face. Olympian Chef 213. Thanks. I had an algebra test on Wednesday. I did well, by the way, as well. Bread pudding is one of those things that is either really good or really bad. I've never tried cooking it though. I like to bake carrot_carrot. Oh, if I find a song that seems to fit the chapter, I will tell you. They will all be some of my favorite songs. Then if you have it, you can play it, or if you don't, you can play it on YouTube. If you don't like the song, then you can listen to something different, or you don't have to listen to music at all. Percy's paw. I woke up with some pains in my neck and in my hands. I stretched out my legs and arms. I wonder how long I've been asleep. It can't be too long. I looked over to see Carolyn sleeping as well, leaning against the window. We will begin our initial descent to London in just a few minutes. Please return your chairs to the upright position and return your tray tables. Thank you. A stewardess said. We are landing. What happened to switching seats again? How long have I actually been sleeping? All of these questions raced through my head as I decided to wake up Carolyn. Carolyn, wake up. We're landing, I said as I gently tapped her shoulder. She groaned and muttered, leave me alone, fish boy. As much as it was an insult, I couldn't help but laugh. She tapped my arm that had just been on her back and shocked me. It was one thing to call me a fish boy, but a whole other to spark me. I took a bit of the moisture in the way and dumped it on the sleeping Carolyn. This was sure to wake her up. Okay, I'm up. Good Lord, what did you do that for? She asked, looking completely surprised and wet. You called me a fish boy and then sparked me. I said. I didn't want to make a scene, but I was prepared to. Instead, she did something that I didn't expect. Sorry, I tend to talk in my sleep, and apparently spark in my sleep as well. She said with a laugh. I appreciated the fact that she wasn't Talia who would have gotten in a huge fight with me over this. Sorry too. Let me fix that, I said as I tapped her shoulder to dry her off. What's up? She said while rubbing her eyes. The stewardess just said we are landing. I said. Her jaw dropped. We slept for 4 hours. She said with disbelief. I nodded in return. What happened to Annabeth and Jade? She said while moving around in her seat, trying to get a view of the rest of the plane. We gave up looking when the pilot said 5 minutes to hitting the ground. We could see London easily now and we decided to wait for landing to find the 2 girls. We promised to not tell them we were sleeping, right? She said after we shook hands. Defiantly, if Annabeth found out she would mock me for eternity. I said, and sadly, it was true. We got off the plane. We waited by the baggage sea. Lame looking for a golden hair gray-eyed girl and a black hair bright green-eyed girl. Soon enough, they made their way through the crowd. So Seaweed Brain had a nice nap, did you? Annabeth laughed when she came up to us. What are you talking about? I said, trying to cover up the truth. How did they know? Oh please, we saw you 2 sleeping. Jade snapped. No you didn't, Carolyn said, now putting her hands across her chest. Yes, we did, the two said in unison. Hey look, that's our bag, Carolyn said, running over to the cart. We got our bags, and walked outside. We had decided earlier that we would stay at Jade's house because she had a huge family and a ton of rooms. Her mom also insisted upon us staying, so we decided to take up the opportunity. We took a cab to this place Here Jade and Carolyn said there was something called a flow network. I must admit it was an odd experience. You step in a fireplace, drop soot, say where you are going, and then turn into flames. We're here, Jade called when we all stepped out of the fireplace. Oh good, a woman who seemed called. A dark-haired woman who looked like a quintessential mother came out of the kitchen. Carolyn, she said as she hugged Carolyn. I'm so glad to be here. I've missed my third home. She exclaimed. Your third home? I asked. Yeah, one is my actual home, my second is Hogwarts, and my third is here. She said to me. So Jade, these must be your friends that you have told me about. The women said, looking towards us. Thank you for letting us stay at your house, Mrs. Montclair. Annabeth said politely. Oh course, Jade, Carolyn will stay in your room with you. We also have Alexander's room open and the guest room for people to stay in. I have to go and prepare dinner. Will you take care of everything for me? Mrs. Montclair said. Yes. Will Alex be visiting? Jade asked. Yes he will, but only tonight. His job is keeping him busy. She replied and then walked back to the kitchen. Please review. I hope you enjoy this chapter. Sorry the ending is weird. Meet the Montclairs. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone in French. Here is another chapter. Thanks as usual for the reviews. The end of the last chapter was weird. So I want to just clear some things up. Mrs. Montclair is Jade's mom. Jade's last name is Montclair. Jade Montclair. I never actually explained that, which I should have. For the future, Carolyn's last name is Summers, Carolyn Summers. Some people were wondering where they were. They are at Jade's house, which is in a suburb right outside London. Sorry if I didn't actually make that clear. Alex is Jade's older brother. Jade has a huge family, who you will meet in this chapter. Cullen Girl 76 or Olivia, thanks so much for the compliments. This chapter was shorter than my others. I just ran out of time. I think that the Flow Network would be a lot of fun too. Actually, I think that everything in the wizarding world would be fun and I don't see why Ry and Ron always complain about classes. I would trade algebra any day for potions. Eno Ice Queen. Thanks. I do plan to have them go to Hogwarts for a little while, but I'm not sure when. Flooding will occur, but once again, I'm not sure when. I promise sooner than later. _carrot. Maddie 8. Thanks for reviewing. Olympian Girl. Thanks, I'm glad you think so. Athens GRL. Thanks, I'm really happy that you still love it. The next chapter should have more information about Carolyn and Jade because they are back in England. My school too. Thank you. We actually don't know what Carolyn was muttering, just that she was muttering. I actually hadn't planned to do anything about that, but people keep asking about it so I might make it into something or sleep talking at least. Carrot. Olympian Chef 213. Merci beaucoup, thanks a lot in French. I personally love bread pudding smiley face. La tua cantante 101. Well, I hope this is soon. Pop-Tarts. My favorite flavor is s'mores. _carrot. I forgot to give a song last time, whoops. This time's song is Coppertone by the Academy is. The song doesn't quite match perfectly, but it was the best I could think of. Carolyn's Pav. Jade helped Annabeth settle into the guest room while I helped Percy settle into her older brother Alex's room. Alex is Jade's really cute brother. He just graduated from Hogwarts last year and is now busy trying to make a living in the ministry. That's why he only can come to dinner. Which is lucky for Percy because he now gets his room. Are you usually this silent? Percy asked after I hadn't spoken for 5 minutes. I have been writing a letter to James. I was about done. It read, Dear James, I'm back from my trip to America. It was a lot of fun. I brought back 2 new friends I'd like you to meet. Plus, I have a ton to tell you. When can we see each other? I've missed you. Sincerely, Carolyn. No, sorry, I was just writing a letter to James saying I've returned. I replied, feeling embarrassed and rude. It's okay. Hey, I'm done unpacking, he started. Then he was cut off by a knock on the door. Hello you guys, sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to say hello. I saw Jade and Annabeth and they said that you were here. Jade's older sister Christina said. I ran up to hug her. She was the oldest child in the family. She must be the nicest person I ever met. Even though her senior year at Hogwarts was my first, but we're still great friends with her. She works as a nurse at St. Mungo's, so she always tells me funny stories about the people she treats. She has darkish brown hair that contrasts with Jade's black, but has the same bright green eyes. Actually, the whole family has the same bright green eyes. Christina, it's so great to see you. Oh, this is Percy, I said while extending a hand out to Percy. Nice to meet you, Percy. I'll get to know you better later, seeing as you'll be staying with us, she said to Percy. It's nice to meet you too, Christina, he said unsurely. So what have you two been up to? She asked, now walking into the room. We've just been unpacking. Wait, is that a ring? I said when I noticed a silver ring with 2 small diamonds and 1 large emerald on it. Yes, Ian proposed and I agreed. I was going to announce it at dinner. But you beat me to it. You were the only one who noticed, she said with a smile. While she said it, she began to blush. Ian has been her boyfriend since senior year, it was only a matter of time. Congratulations, Percy and I said simultaneously. You're invited to the wedding, of course. And Percy, you are too if you're in town. We don't have any dates or anything yet, so I couldn't tell you when it is, she said, now sitting on the bed. But enough about me, what about you, Percy? Annabeth explained to me about half-bloods, Christina said. In a way, she's wise. Than Jade, even though Jade could beat her grade wise on anything. Yeah, Percy said, nodding his head, clearly unsure of what to say. And Carolyn, you're one too. How exciting it must be to know who your father is, she said. Yeah, it really is, I said. I mean, I can't believe that my father is Zeus, it's so cool. That is cool. That explains why you always spark me right. And Percy, your father is Poseidon if I'm correct, she said. Annabeth had clearly told her everything. Yeah, Annabeth clearly has clued you in, he said, almost reading my mind. She really has. She's a sweet girl, you know. You're lucky, Percy, to have her. I chucked at this. This is why I love Christina. Annabeth told you, Percy said with disbelief. No, I figured that much out on my own, she said with a large smile. I really should get going. I promised to help Mum with the cooking, so see you later. And with that she left the room. Percy and I went to go and find Annabeth and Jade. On the way, I stopped and mailed my letter to James by using their family owl, Pellet. An almost pure black owl that has a few white patches here and there. We reached Jade's and temporarily my room. Annabeth and Jade were in there reading some books. Annabeth was the first one to notice us walk in. Hey Seaweed Brain, hi Carolyn. It took you guys long enough, Annabeth said, closing her book. Sorry, Christina came in for a few minutes right when we were done, I said. She came to us too, Jade said. We know, she told us that she spoke to you guys, Percy said. I know I should have waited for Christina to tell them herself, but I just couldn't help it. I must say I'm a bit of a blabbermouth. Christina is engaged, I exclaimed. But keep it a secret, she's going to tell at dinner. The only reason why I know is because I guessed. To Ian, I suppose, right? Jade said in total shock. Of course, who else is there? They're perfect together. Remember first year, the game? I said, reminiscing. In first year, we played a game where Jade and I thought that they would someday get married and we bet how long it would take them to get engaged. None of us won. Jade bet 2 years ago and I bet in a year. Yeah, I remember the game. It was absolutely stupid, you know. Jade said. You two are always stupid. Jade's little brother, Dan, just walked in. He is Jade's only younger sibling, and always resents being the youngest. He shows that by taking it out on Jade because she's only a year older than him. Oh, would you just shut up and leave? Jade asked in a sour tone. He loves to annoy us, I always tell Jade that we should pull a prank on him. But she just tells me that it's pointless and immature, and that since we're older we should be the bigger ones. Hi Dan, it's nice to see you again, I said sarcastically. He shook his unruly brown hair and cocked a smile. Carolyn, I'd say it's nice to see you too, but it isn't. And here are our two guests, he said, now looking at Percy and Annabeth who were sitting together on Jade's bed. Dan, this is Percy and Annabeth. You can be as nasty to Carolyn and I but be nice to them. They're guests, and if I find out that you've been rude, I'm telling Mum. Jade threatened. Just before Dan could retort, a man walked in the room. To be exact, Alex walked in the room. Although I have a boyfriend, I must say, Alex is hot. He makes me want to melt, but he's 4 years older than me, it's not going to happen is the point. Dan, be nice to Carolyn and Jade's guests, he said, in his beautiful voice. I love how he refers to me as if this is my house. Hi, I'm Alex, I believe you're staying in my room, he said walking over to Percy. I noticed something strange when he was next to Percy. They looked similar. Alex was almost an older Percy. Alex had brighter eyes the same as the rest of the Montclairs and had a more angular face. But overall, they looked similar, which would mean, no. I like Percy as a friend, and nothing more. I like James. Hi, I'm Percy, Percy said while shaking Alex's hand. Annabeth did the same, but I noticed that she must have thought the same thing that I did. That Alex looks an awful lot like Percy. She kept looking back and forth between the two of them. Mum just wants me to tell you guys that dinner will begin in 5 minutes and to wash up, Alex said, and with that he left. Jade, how many siblings do you have? Percy asked. 4. And counting me it makes it 5. You've already met most of them. The only one you haven't met is Logan. He's a 7th year, but I don't know where he is. He should be around here somewhere, Jade said, turning her neck to act like she's looking. Logan is the only one in the family that looks a bit different. He has the same bright green eyes, but the difference is that he has dirty blonde hair, opposite to the family's black and brown hair. We think he got it from his grandmother, the only one in the family who's a blonde. We got ready for dinner and then went downstairs. We were the 4th to get there. Alex and Christina were already there. Jade's father was there talking to Alex. And Jade's mom was making plates for everyone. Look who finally came down, Jade's dad said. Christina shot us a sympathetic smile while Alex just shook his head. A few minutes later, everyone was downstairs and began to eat. Dinner wasn't all that exciting. Christina announced that she was engaged, which was old news to us. When we were about to go upstairs after dinner, something caught my eye. Pellet was returning. Guys, hold up. Pellet is coming back, I said. They all came back to the bottom of the stairs. Pellet flew back inside the house and came to me. I unattached the letter and read the note. Carolyn, I'm glad you're back and I can't wait to see you. Want to meet tomorrow in Diagon Alley. Albus broke his wand and we need to get it replaced. I hope to see you there and I've missed you as well. As always, James. Reading the letter made my heart melt just a little bit. I told everyone that we were going to Diagon Alley. Jade groaned a little but agreed. Percy and Annabeth were thrilled, and they wanted to see what it looked like. Everyone hung out together for a little while, and then we went to bed early because of jet lag. When Jade was brushing her teeth, I found Percy in Annabeth's room making out. I felt like disturbing them, just for fun. Good night, love birds, I said and walked out of the room before any of them could respond. That was a long chapter. Anyways, what did you think? Good, terrible, I need to know, so please review. Reviews will make my day, I mean it. Percy 1 and 2, hi everyone, I'm updating again. I just want to let you know that I won't be able to update nearly as often for the next few weeks. I have trimester testing, which means for the next 3 weeks I have a test every day, on top of the fact that I have a billion, I exaggerating a little, projects due over the next few weeks. This results in less updating, which I'm sorry about. I won't thank everyone on the story anymore because I'm determined to find out how to review reply. ****, I like being creative with my faces. Also, this chapter is dedicated to Wind. OW child Abby, for her love of Percy and Percy. Also, if anyone has song suggestions, please tell me them. I won't guarantee that they will be used because they have to fit and I have to like them, but I love suggestions. This chapter's song is Homecoming by Hey Monday, a totally awesome song. Carolyn's POV. The next day proved to be sunny and welcoming, although very cold. We all bundled up in our warmest gear and set out to meet James and his family at Diagon Alley. We used flow powder again to get there. The streets were filled with witches and wizards hustling and bustling around. This is so awesome, Percy said while passing a store that sold various magical items. Some people looked at him funny, as if he was a muggle. Well, technically he is, but let's not focus on that, shall we? Shut up, seaweed brain. People are looking at you funny, Annabeth said quietly, practically pulling the words out of my mouth. People are looking at you like you're a muggle, Jade said in a hushed tone. But before anyone else could make another comment, Carolyn, someone called out. I turned to find James running towards me. My memory didn't do him justice, he looked better than when I saw him last. James, I've missed you, I said when he ran up and pulled me into a hug and gave me a quick kiss. I've missed you too. How was your trip? He asked, giving one of his huge smiles. It was good. How was your holiday? Good so far. It looked like you survived the Weasley Christmas dinner, I said with a laugh. James always moaned about his family dinners. His family was huge, and when the whole family ate together on meals, something was always bound to happen. He survived, but barely, his father said with a laugh, catching up with his son, bringing James's immediate family behind. His father was the famous Harry Potter. He looked a lot like James, of course with more mature features, but overall very similar. He had a lightning bolt-shaped scare from the dark wizard named Lord Voldemort. If you hadn't known it was from Voldemort, you would have guessed it was from my father by looking at the shape. Good day, Mr. Potter and Mrs. Potter. Has your holiday been good so far? I asked politely. His parents love me. I wonder why. It has been great, thank you. It's nice to see you, Carolyn, and Jade. I almost didn't say you there, Mrs. Potter said. Poor Jade, that seemed to happen a lot. James, be good. We'll meet you at Weasley's Wizard Wheezes in a little while, Mr. Potter said. Can I stay with them? James's little sister Lily asked before they were about to turn around. No, you can't, James replied sharply. James, be nice to your sister. I'm sorry, Lily, but not today, Mrs. Potter said. I shot Lily a sympathetic smile. She was sweet, but James, though, she was annoying. The rest of James's family walked away, leaving us behind. Can we go inside? I'm going to turn into a Jedesical in a matter of minutes, Jade moaned. I hadn't realized how cold it was, but as soon as she mentioned it, I became instantly cold. Yeah, there is a little pub a little down the way. Let's go, James said, leading the way. When we got inside we felt instant warmth. We all got warm drinks from the bar and sat down at a table. Warmth, I said at the first sip of my drink. James put his arm around my shoulder and pulled me in. Wow, Jade, you're fast, Percy commented for the first time in a while. Jade had swallowed every last sip of her drink. I think that is when James realized that Percy and Annabeth were also with us. Sorry I was so, rude. I'm James, James said, extending his hand towards Percy and Annabeth. I'm Percy and this is Annabeth, Percy said awkwardly, extending his hand to shake James's. Percy. I have an uncle Percy. But he's the reject of the family Beck. Oz, he betrayed Dad and the rest of family for the Ministry during the war against Voldemort. If you are anything like him or his children, I will have to hex you, James said, pulling out his wand. James can be a bit imposing. Grr, Percy said, temper clearly rising. Annabeth placed her hand on his as to calm him down. So, what school do you guys go to? You clearly don't go to Hogwarts, James said, looking them over. Percy and Annabeth exchanged looks and then looked at me for help. I explained the whole situation to James, about demigods, the war, and everything. So you're really a daughter of Zeus, James said, looking at me, and asking that question for the billionth time. Yes, how many times do I have to tell you? I said, getting slightly irritated. Prove it, he said simply. I could have just tapped his arm and shocked him on command, but that seemed so unoriginal. Instead, I did a very me thing. I pulled him into a kiss, with a shock on the tip of my lips. Ouch. Okay. I believe you. He screamed after he withdrew after the slight touch of my lips. I bared a grin. Now that I know what is going on, no thanks to you, he said while he shot me a glare. How do you guys think you're going to convince the whole wizarding community to join the cause? I mean, I'm totally up for it, but I don't know about everyone else. We haven't quite figured that much out yet. I admitted. That was really the end of that conversation. We discussed pasts and basic get-to-know-you stuff for a while. So, now that you're back, are you going to go to Ariana's party? James asked. James, you're a genius. Jade cried out. Wow, Jade, of all people, I never expected that from Ms. Textbook. James said with a laugh. James likes to call Jade Ms. Textbook because of her immense knowledge and her love of textbooks. James was like me, not good in school. Jade shot him a glare, and then explained. Ariana's party is held by her father, the minister. If we go, we can talk him into helping with the war. You're right, we have to go. I'll write her a letter and let her know that we're coming and we have 2 guests, I said. Ariana is one of our best friends. Her dad is the minister, which is lucky for us. This is good, now I won't be alone. James said, looking at me in the eyes. You were never alone. Ralph is going to be there. So is our entire class, plus Olivia's whole class. And your whole family. You were so far from alone. I said, punching him lightly in the shoulder. Olivia is Ariana's little sister, who is actually friends with James's little brother, Albus. But still, it's a dance. And what fun is a dance without my girlfriend? He said, now pulling me into a kiss. I hate to admit it, but we were kind of snogging, in front of everyone. I felt almost rude, but I've seen Percy and Annabeth do it enough that I forgot that minor detail. We left the pub shortly after, heading over to the Weasley joke shop. And now that's the end of the chapter, folk. Carolyn. Thanks for finally bringing James back. No problem, it was only a matter of time, enjoy it while it lasts. Carolyn. He's going to break up with me. How could you do such a thing? Well, I kind of own you, and create you. And well, so long. Carolyn. What? Shout. I've always been such a terrible secret keeper. Go. Runs off. Carolyn. Come back. I want answers. While I run for my life, please review. ! Card tricks. Thanks so much as usual for the reviews. I'm sorry I haven't updated in forever. I've just been extremely busy between schoolwork and the rest of my life, can you believe it? I have a life. I also won't be able to update any other times this week, but I have 2 days off next week, so I promise 2 chapters next weekend. How does that sound? Oh, I'm ditching the song thing. It's hard to find songs that match perfectly and no one gave me suggestions, so you can choose your own music, but if you ever want suggestions of songs, just PM me. I love music to the millionth degree, so I know a ton of songs. I always listen to music when I write, although most of the time the song doesn't match the chapter in the slightest. Carrot. Percy's paw. So here we are, walking on the way to this joke shop. We meaning Annabeth, Carolyn, Jade, James unfortunately, and I just don't get along with James. First he insults my name and then I don't know what, but I know he'll do something. So, here we are. Carolyn said, her high voice pulling me out of my thoughts. I looked at the store. It had bright lights, advertisements, on the outside. Who knew wizards had advertisements? Annabeth grabbed my hand and pulled me inside the store. It was bustling with school kids who looked about our age, give or take. James, you've brought guests, you must introduce me. A man with bright red hair said, walking up to us. Uncle George, how's business? James asked. Apparently he was his uncle. As you can see, quite good. Oh Carolyn, I would expect to see you around, my nephew. And Jade, but who are these 2 hiding? George said, pointing a figure to Annabeth and I. This is Annabeth, and that is Percy. James said, pointing to him. I have a brother named Percy, you know. He said, here we go again. I've heard, I grumbled. George, we need to restock the back room. Another red-haired man called, as he walked over to us. Oh, James, is your father coming? He asked. Uncle Ron. Yeah, he should be here shortly, James replied. James, be polite and introduce me to your new friends, Ron said with a knowing smile. James gave whole introduction thing. Again, including the, your name is Percy. My brother's name is Percy. The conversation soon ended, and we began to spread out around the store. Carolyn, Jade, and Annabeth to go to the girl products, while James showed me around briefly. And this back room here we have more items. Not everything will work for you because a lot of it you'll need a wand. Anyways, look around, he said turning around and leaving me alone in the back room. I looked up and down the walls. I saw stuff that made you puke to get out of class. I could sure use some of those. I came across many different things of that sort, but one thing in particular. A sign read, Muggle Magic. I walked over. It was the first time that I felt like I knew what something was. There were decks of cards, and other things that you see magicians use at magic shows. There was a deck of cards that lie on top of the others that had a small sign on it that said, Tester. I picked it up. It looked like a normal deck of cards. I counted the cards, 52 exactly. I know some card tricks. I decided to try them out, maybe turn some heads. Within 5 minutes, I had gathered a sizable crowd around me, including Carolyn and Jade who were watching me with fascination. Okay, for this one I'll need a volunteer, I said loudly above the commotion. People turned their heads to face me. It almost felt creepy. Now even James and Annabeth were watching. James had a stunned look on his face, while Annabeth was shaking her head, like I was stupid. That's the problem with Annabeth. No matter what I do, she always treats me as a retard. Now don't get me wrong, to a degree I am, but sometimes I'm right. People's hands shot up in the air. I spotted Carolyn's in midair. I beckoned for her to come over. I thought you would pick me, she said quietly when she came over. Of course, I replied. I know, cheesy. Can you think of anything better to say to the girl you might have a crush on? Okay, I need you to pick any card from the deck. She picked a card randomly from the middle of the deck. Okay, now what? She said, pressing the card against her stomach as if to hide it. You place it in the deck right here face down. I was doing the extremely simple trick that no one back in America would fall for, but these witches and wizards were eating it up. I pretended to shuffle, then began looking for the 2 of clubs. The card that was before the card she put face down. I soon found the card she must have had, the 3 of hearts. Is this your card? I announced, lifting the card into the air. Yeah, Percy, you can do magic, she said jokingly while hugging me. I saw out of the corner of my eye, I saw Annabeth cringe. I stumbled backwards, and she let go and ran back to Jade. After doing a couple more tricks, people seemed to become a little less interested, and returned to their shopping. Afterwards, James's uncle Ron came up to me. We really could hire you, kid. You're good, he said, patting me on the back. Really, it's nothing, I said modestly. Whatever you say, but you brought us business, he said, pointing to the clump of people hovering around the cards. Well, excuse me, my best mate and sister have just arrived, Ron said walking over to James's parents who had just walked in with James's siblings. You were good, Annabeth said suddenly, creeping up behind me and grabbing my hand. Really you think? I saw you smirking, I said squeezing her hand. She rolled her eyes and said, you're such a seaweed brain. Before kissing me, we broke apart and began smiling. Sorry to break up the love, but we better be going. My parents are expecting us home in a short while, Jade said, tapping me on the shoulder. She led us to the entrance of the store, where I saw Carolyn and James kissing goodbye. My heart sank a tiny bit. See you at Ariana's party in a few days, Carolyn said. Yeah, see you there, he said, letting go of her hand and turned to us. And see you guys there as well. We walked out of the store, into the cold, bitter air. Where are we going? Annabeth asked, shivering. I put my arm around her, hoping that it would help her warm up. To find the nearest flow network, Jade said simply. I was beginning to finally understand wizard talk. We walked for about 10 minutes, before finding the flow network. After stepping into the flame, I found myself instantly warmer and back inside the Montclair's house. I hope you liked that chapter. I tried to make it slightly funny. Did it seem funny? Was it good? Tell me in a review. I love reviews, so make my day a give them. Please! Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. My nightmare before New Year's Eve. Annabeth's POV. It's inevitable, we're going to have to go. I heard Carolyn say loudly to Jade. The two were in the closet sifting through Jade's dresses for their friend Ariana's party. 2 days had gone past since we visited James in Diagon Alley and therefore the party was tomorrow. The dress was black tie, so everyone had to get dressed up. They had to find 3 dresses, one for Jade, Carolyn, and me. Percy was borrowing a tux from Jade's brother because they were around the same size. From what I could hear of the conversation, there hasn't been much luck with finding dresses. Do we have to? It's going to be so crowded. New Year's is tomorrow. Besides, I always feel uncomfortable there. Jade replied. She sounded a little like she was pleading. Crowds aren't a problem. Besides, we just were in New York. You'll be fine. Carolyn replied. Okay. I'm too curious, what are they talking about? I shot a low okay at Percy, who was playing with one of the things he bought at the joke shop the other day, and walked into the closet. Jade had a huge closet, loaded with clothing. What's wrong? I asked, peeking my head inside. The problem is that Jade only has 2 dresses, besides the fact that one of them makes whoever's in it look like they're attending a funeral. Carolyn replied, shooting glares at Jade constantly. And Carolyn thinks that we have to go shopping for new ones. Jade said. She interlocked her arms over her chest, and almost pout. What's wrong with that? Shopping has never been my favorite activity, but I could survive. And sometimes, it was even fun. That's not the problem. It's just that the only places we can go to get dresses are in the Muggle shops. Wizards wear mostly robes, so formal wear these days is usually bought in Muggle shops. Jade explained. I still didn't quite see the problem here. Was it transportation? I still don't see the problem. I said, shaking my head. After all, technically I'm a Muggle. Exactly. Carolyn said, walking out of the closet past me. Jade just doesn't like going to the Muggle world because of a previous incident. What happened? I asked. That's besides the point. I guess we'll go. Get ready. We should go now before it gets too late. Jade said, now too, walking out of the closet. Percy, are you coming? I asked him. I knew he was paying attention to the whole conversation, whether he cared or not. If you don't mind, I'm not. I promised Dan that I would teach him some card tricks if he showed me some magic. Percy said, looking up. Besides, shopping is not my thing. Quote, that's fine. I'm just warning you, Dan can be tricky, so make sure that he doesn't do anything stupid. Also, he's not allowed to do magic out of school, so unless he wants to do something very basic, make sure he doesn't do any magic. Okay, Jade said while rummaging through a drawer. Yeah, I'll be careful. Maybe, just to be safe, he shouldn't do any magic. Just because I don't know what's basic or not. Percy said. That would be best. Jade said while pulling a bag out of the drawer too quickly. She lost grip of the bag and it flew backwards and hit Carolyn, who was putting on her shoes. In the eye. Ouch. Jade. Carolyn said, standing up. It looked like she was going to send a lightning bolt at Jade, who was now pressed up against the cabinet in fear. Chillax. I'm not going to really hurt you, I'm not that mean. Carolyn said, laughing. Apparently, Jade didn't think it was that funny, because she kept a solemn face. About 5 minutes later, we were ready to go. I gave Percy a quick goodbye kiss, before we walked out into the cold, crisp air. Jade's POV. I hate shopping. I really do. No matter what you're shopping for, where you are shopping, or whom you're with. It just sucks. So anyways, back to reality. It's cold, we're doing my least favorite thing in the world. My best friend and my new friend are completely ignoring me. Yeah, you've heard me right. They're ignoring me. Yesterday, Annabeth and Carolyn were arguing about who gets the last fruit bar. And now, they're all buddy. Grr. This store looks cute, don't you think? Annabeth asked the two of us. Yeah, I suppose, I said while shrugging. Looks good. Let's go, Carolyn said cheerfully, grabbing each of us by our hands and dragging us inside. Leave it to Carolyn to make us look like 4-year-olds being dragged by our mum, when she's the actual child. She has the looks of an 18-year-old, but the maturity of a 6-year-old. If you're someone who likes to shop, this place would be heaven. If you're someone like me, who would much rather spend your afternoon in a dusty old cellar, then welcome to hell, or I guess Tartarus. Racks of clothing spread around. In the back of the store was a section full of just dresses. Carolyn led the way to the back, Annabeth following closely behind. I followed, at least 4 feet behind. I finally walked into Dress Central, to find Carolyn running through the racks like a child in a toy store. The immaturity of that girl amazes me, and how many boys have crushes on her is even more amazing. Jade, I found the perfect dress for you, Carolyn said, running up to me with 5 dresses in hand. Oh, Carolyn, I can find one for myself, you know, I said, handing her back the bright orange sequined dress she tried to force me to wear. I know, but I was trying to help. What has gotten into lately? Carolyn asked, finally hanging the dress on the closest rack. What has gotten into me lately? It's old be the fact that you drag me to the least favorite thing in the world, and then my 2 friends who disliked each other yesterday are suddenly great friends. Oh joy, just once, could I be the one everyone likes? Despite Carolyn's behavior, she manages to make more friends and get everyone's attention. How the world is unfair. Nothing. I just think that I know my own taste better than you, I said, walking away from the sour conversation. I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but I could swear that I heard Carolyn whisper, "What is her problem?" Just a bad day, just a bad day. After spending about another hour and a half or so, we had all found dresses that we liked and that fit, and we began to head back. We stopped at a coffee shop and got some drinks, before we actually went back to my home. I think Carolyn could tell that my mood lightened once we left the store, because she began to talk to me more and less to Annabeth, just like it's supposed to be. Hi, thanks for reading. Sorry it took me so long to update, but I will try to keep to my promise and update once more by Tuesday. I should be able to update more often again because my testing week is over, so yay. Sorry this chapter is on the dull and boring side, but the next one I promise will be exciting. Anyways, please, review. The hour before the battle. Carolyn's paw. Do you think we're overdoing it? Jade asked while I dabbed one last bit of green eyeshadow on her right eye. Not at all. Besides, you want a boyfriend, right? I reassured her. We were getting ready for Ariana's party. I was doing Jade's makeup for the party. Jade could do makeup herself, but not as well. Last night she confided in me the fact that she wanted a boyfriend, and I was here to help. After all, I was the one with the experience. Yeah, but I don't want to seem like I was asking for it, Jade said, shaking her head. I'm hopeless. I grabbed her hands. You're not hopeless. You just need to put yourself out there more. I'm here to help, I guess, but we have a problem here. You're supposed to be convinced the minister to join the war against the Titans, not play Cupid. I hate to admit it, but she was right. I completely forgot the whole entire reason we were going. I could multitask, couldn't I? I'll figure it out. Don't worry, I can't talk to the minister all night. Time to do lipstick. I rummaged through the makeup bag and pulled out a bright red for her. I popped off the top and pulled the tip towards her lips. She jerked back suddenly and placed her hand over her mouth. Are you sure this will look good? Positive. You have got to trust me. Why would I want to make you look bad? I know you wouldn't. Oh, fine, just put it on. Jade winced as I put the lipstick on. All done. You look great, I said while handing her the mirror. I look. Jade stumbled, clearly lost for words. Amazing. I smiled. Once again, Carolyn, the master, has done it again. Different, she replied. Good different, I promised. Just then, Annabeth knocked on the door. I just have to use the bathroom. Let us get out of your way, Jade said, leading us out of the bathroom. We walked back into Jade's room and found Percy all dressed in a tux waiting for everyone else. You ready? I asked, sitting down next to him. I have been ready for the past half hour. You girls take so long. Percy said, looking at me kind of strangely. We only do it for you men. If men didn't care how girls looked, then we wouldn't take so long. Really, it's all your fault, I said, patting him on the back. Us men have our own problems, you know, Percy remarked while getting up. Yeah, they really do. They don't even know how to do their own ties, Jade said, walking up to Percy and began fixing his. She is such a perfectionist, even when it doesn't even have to do with her. How can you do this when I can't? He asked while trying not to wince as Jade practically whipped him with the tie. I have 3 brothers. I know how to do these things. Finished. She stepped back to admire her own work. Much better, don't you think? Most defiantly, I replied with a smirk. Jade, will you do my tie? Jade's little brother Dan walked in. See, here, come on, that tie does not match, Jade said while pulling Dan by his collar into his room. This left Percy and I alone in the room. You, look nice, Percy chalked. His face turned bright red. Why thanks, you don't look half bad yourself, I replied. Something about Percy's compliment made me feel warm inside. The conversation went silent for a little while until Annabeth walked in her bright red dress and red high heels. Her dress was strapless, with 3 little fabric roses right at the waist. It looked really nice on her. I mean, I would know, I helped her choose it. Annabeth, you look really pretty, Percy said, this time without choking. Really, you think? She said, looking herself over one more time. Of course, he said. Then they began to kiss. I had one of those moments when you get slightly entranced by watching them that you forget that you shouldn't be staring. Oh, Carolyn, Jade said, tapping me on the shoulder. I spun around, springing out of shock. What? I whispered. It might have sounded a bit like a hiss. What on earth are you doing? She asked. Well, you see, I began to explain. Luckily, I didn't have to finish. I can't believe it, seaweed brain, you managed to do your tie well. Jade and I began to crack up. Well, I didn't quite do it myself, I had some help. He said. Help? Are you kidding? Jade did it all, I said while still laughing. Annabeth raised an eyebrow. I knew you couldn't do it yourself, Annabeth said, now walking away. He did okay the first time, I just fixed it. Jade walked over to Percy and patted him on the back. I heard footsteps from outside the room. Sorry to disturb, but it's time to go. My dreamboat, Alex said. Gods, does he look good in a tux? No, I like James, I really do. He's sweet, and nice, and cute, and, oh whatever. Okay, let's go, Jade said, grabbing her coat and leading us out of the room. Her whole family was going because her dad works with the minister. We all gathered right outside their house to get ready to go. Soon enough, the whole family was outside, which might I add took up a whole lot of space, and we left. It took a little while to get the whole family to their mansion of a home, but soon enough we arrived. Jade's parents, Christina, and Alex went into the room that was for the adults, while Jade's brothers, Jade, Annabeth, Percy, and I went into the room for the younger people. We found Ariana at the door, greeting everyone. She was wearing a longish white dress that was fitted perfectly for her figures. I mean, her father is the minister, of course she could afford really nice dresses. Her hair wasn't done special, actually, it was done like she normally had it. Straight brown hair that sat on her shoulders. Carolyn, Jade, I'm so glad you came, she said with her always charming smile, and brought us into a hug. Ariana was always the daughter of an important father figure, so she grew up as always being proper and a hostess. If you knew her as well as Jade and I did, you would see that affected her daily personality. I'm so glad we could come, Jade said as the hug split. Oh Ariana, these are our friends from America, Annabeth and Percy, I said, moving to the side so she could see them. It's nice to meet you, she said, and then we began the whole situation to her, about half-bloods, and the war. And so on. Aha, I see. So you want to talk to my father. Unfortunately, he's really busy tonight. If you stay after the party's over, maybe you can get a chance to talk to him, she said. I exchanged glances with Percy and Annabeth, who nodded. Yeah, I think we'll need to stay later. Percy said. I want to hear all about your trip, but some more people have arrived. I'll catch up with you later. Okay, she said as she walked back towards the entrance. We stepped into what you could call a winter wonderland now, but by the end of the night, what could only be described as a battlefield. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Sorry that the ending is half a cliffhanger, but I'll try to update soon. I've been planning this in the next few chapters for a while because this is when the story really starts to hit a point, so I need reviews more than ever. For the last few chapters, less people have reviewed, so please people, review. I need to know, did you love it, hate it, or in between? Either way, I need to know, so please review, and if you have any suggestions whatsoever, please tell them to me. I would really like to hear them. Thank you for keeping up with the story so far. Greek mythology Louvre 7, a not-so-harmless dance. Carolyn's Pav. This is amazing, Annabeth remarked when we walked into the ballroom. The room was almost completely white. How is it snowing if we're inside? Percy asked, sticking his hand and tongue out into the air. You are such a seaweed brain, Annabeth said while kicking him lightly in the ankle. First of all, don't call me that. Second of all, do you even know why it's snowing, wise girl? He said while rubbing his newly sore ankle. Actually, I don't, but I didn't stick my tongue out at a formal party. She replied, now grabbing his hand. Well, to answer your question, the ceiling is under a weather enchantment, Jade said basically. Then, with another question from Annabeth, she began spewing out facts like we were in school and she was writing a verbal essay. Here she goes again. I rolled my eyes. So, now what? Percy said, scanning the party. Music was playing. The party was still towards the beginning. Therefore James and a lot of people weren't here yet. I see my friend Mel. Want to go meet her? I asked. Sure. We have nothing better to do we? Percy said. I led him over to Mel, who was at the drink table. Oh, all of my friends, Mel was by far the most similar to me. Outgoing, loud, talkative, etc. Mel, I called as I shuffled up with Percy tailing me. I really have to learn how to walk in heels better. Carolyn, oh my God, I didn't think that you were coming, she said as she ran up to me and gave me a hug. Well, I'm here, I said while shrugging, and then I remembered Percy. Oh, this is Percy. We met in America. They shook hands. I'm Melanie, nice to meet you. She extended her arm to Percy, who looked at it for a few seconds and then decided to shake it. He then went on and explained half-bloods and so on. That's so cool. Well, not the evil man trying to take over the world, but the part about having a god as a parent sounds like fun. Percy smirked while I shrugged. I haven't been a half-blood long enough to tell. As Jade here too, I would love to see her. Mel said, looking around. Yeah, she's here. She's talking to Annabeth. Percy said while pointing in the other direction. Annabeth, she asked. Percy's girlfriend, half-blood daughter of Athena, blonde hair, gray eyes, the one in the red dress. I recited while pointing to Jade and Annabeth talking to each other. Oh, I see. So Carolyn, guess what? Mel said. What? Is this about a little guy named Max? I asked. Max is this guy that Mel likes. Mel has had a number of different boyfriends, half of which were her trying to play hard to get. Sadly no, but Ariana said I could sing one song with the band. She said while jumping up and down. Mel really wants to be a singer, and she's really good at singing. Ariana so concentrated about everything being perfect and orderly, she never let Mel sing, which always got Mel annoyed. That is so great. What made her agree? I asked. Oh, you know, she said, punching my shoulder. No I don't. I replied, shaking my head. Carolyn, of all people you would know, she said with a knowing tone. I thought hard for a second. You didn't. It hit me like a bludger. It was so obvious once you thought about it. Care to enlighten me? Percy asked. I almost forgot that he was with us. Sorry, so I don't remember if I told you, but only subject that I'm good at school besides Quidditch is potions. I asked him. I think you might have mentioned like that. Percy said, nodding. Well, Carolyn is an absolute potions genius. Mel said. Not much of one. Anyways, on the last day before holiday I finished my potion assignment early. Really early, Mel added. The point is, Our professor told me to try to make anything in the book that seemed interesting to me. So I wanted to try something that seemed cool and useful. So I made this potion that makes people say some lies and stuff like that, and I gave it to Mel here. I gestured my hand, hoping Percy would catch the lead. You poisoned her, Percy said with eyes opened wide. No, no, no. I just put a little bit of potion in her pumpkin juice this morning, Mel said, shaking her head violently. You cannot tell her about this, you hear me, boy? She and I burst out laughing. If Jade or Ariana were here, they would think we were absolutely insane and stare at us strangely. One of the reasons I love Mel. We have a very similar sense of humor. I won't tell, I promise, Percy said, smiling. I'm glad he could take a joke. Hi Melanie. Oh hey Carolyn, I heard someone say. I turned around to find Max standing right in front of us. I knew that Melanie must have been jumping inside. Hey Max, how's your holiday been so far? I asked politely, trying my best not to smile too largely on account of Mel. I am such a sucker for happy love stories. Well, so far. Can I borrow Melanie? He asked. Yeah sure, of course you could borrow me, she said as she cringed about her weird answer. See you guys later, I said as he put his arm around Mel and led her off. I sighed. I love happy stories, I said, looking at Percy. They're okay I guess, he said, smirking. Oh, so that you don't want to be with Annabeth then. My life is far from a happy story. But your love life is not as happy as you would think. How so? Too complicated to explain. Fine, I get that. But then you have to dance with me, I asked. Maybe I was being a bit forward, but I don't care. Forwardness always hasn't been one of my favorite qualities. I don't think that will sit well with Annabeth. We both looked off in the other direction. Annabeth and Jade were talking to some people. Just as friends, nothing more. I grabbed his hand and led him towards the crowded dance floor. Just put your hand on my waist and relax, I told him once we got there. At first he was stiff, but later he loosened up and we began to really begin dancing. You're not that bad at dancing, you know, I screamed. The music was blasting and it was hard to hear each other. You're not bad yourself, he said. I'm actually terrible, I just look good because I get so into it, I said. We danced for a little while longer. Maybe we should stop, Percy said. Oh please, don't stop on my accord. I turned around to find James standing there with arms crossed and an angry look on his face. Cliffhanger. Sorry, but you won't have to wait long if you review. Even after my plea, I didn't get that many more reviews. So if I get 7 or 10 or something more reviews, I will update tomorrow. But if I don't, I won't update till next weekend. So, if you want to find out what happened, review. Also, there aren't going to be that many more chapters left, so stay tuned. Also, I plan on changing my user name to Elemental Sweets or Elemental Sweets 7, so I just wanted to give you a head up. Thanks for reading. Greek Mythology Louver 7 for now. The Fear. I've tried to only write my messages at the end of the chapter, but I have to say one thing. Over the past few chapters, I have been realizing that Carolyn is a Mary Sue. A review that I got proved my point, so over the next few chapters, I'm going to be going into more character detail to prevent the Mary Sue behavior. Now, on with the story. Carolyn's POV. Oh hey James, you finally arrived, I said cheerfully. I knew that it probably wouldn't solve anything because he was clearly mad. But I was going to try my best. Apparently not early enough, he said sourly. I always knew that you two would get together, but I ignored it because I thought that I could trust you. But apparently I was wrong. No, you weren't. We were just dancing as friends. I was waiting for you, and Annabeth and Jade were off talking to people, so we just danced as friends. There really isn't a reason to overreact, I said, grabbing his shoulders and shaking them. Yeah seriously James, nothing happened, Percy assured. You've already done enough, you shouldn't be talking here. This is all your fault, James accused. This wasn't his fault, I asked him to dance as friends, I said as Annabeth and Jade walked up to us. Hey guys, what's up? Having fun? Annabeth asked. We were, I heard Percy mutter. Percy and Carolyn here were dancing together, James said, crossing his arms over his chest. Oh really? Annabeth said and began looking sharply at us. Only as friends, we were bored. I was waiting to dance with you. Percy said, grabbing Annabeth's hand. She considered it for a moment, and then smiled. You were waiting to dance with me. She began grinning. Of course. Dancing with Carolyn was fine, but the only person I really want to dance with is you. Percy said as they pulled into a kiss. So, want to dance? Annabeth nodded and they walked off. I couldn't help but smile. So, James began. So now I know you don't trust me. I couldn't help but be furious. He didn't trust me at all. I just don't know how this relationship could work if he didn't trust me. You know that's not true. Yes, I do. If you see me within a few feet of him, you freak out. What is wrong? It's just that you are so beautiful, especially tonight, and I just don't want anyone to take you away from me. That's so sweet. I only want to be with you too, I said, and then we kissed. Boy, have I missed you. He whispered in my ear while holding me in a hug. I've missed you too, I said while pulling into another kiss. We then began to slow dance. I can't remember the last time we danced like this, so close to each other, so sweetly. James, this is so sweet and nice. But my feet are hurting from my heels. Mind if we sit down? My feet felt like they were on fire. I felt like I was going to collapse. Of course, whatever you want. I flashed him a smile. And we walked over to a table where Jade was sitting with Jeff, the guy she had a crush on last year. Hey guys, I see that you made up. Jade said happily. Yeah, he couldn't live without me, I said, patting his back. I'm not that desperate. Did I tell you how pretty you look tonight? He asked me. I was wearing a strapless yellow dress that was shiny. I thought it looked nice on me, but James just confirmed it. On the other hand though, he has to say that if he doesn't want me to leave him. Well, now you did. I told him. I turned to Jade and Jeff. How are you guys? They looked at each other funny, and then smiled. Well, Jade began. She was wearing an emerald dress with a black tie that matched her hair perfectly. She looked towards Jeff looking for help. I asked Jade out and she agreed. He said. They looked at each other and started to smile. That's so great. You know she had a major crush on you last year. Besides my little fight, this was turning out to be a good day for everyone. Jade turned pink. I actually didn't know that, but I'm glad I know now. He said, and they began to kiss. I'm so glad for Jade, her first boyfriend. They soon got up to dance and it left James and I alone. We talked and ate fruit kebabs for a little while. It wasn't until about 11 p.m. Percy and Annabeth came over. We've got a bit of a problem, Annabeth said. What? James and I asked simultaneously. Well, we think that there might be monsters here, Percy said. What? How are they here? I asked. This was not good. We think that Kronos' boat, the Princess Andromeda, has sailed across the Atlantic and has tried to get the wizards join their forces. We believe that some of their forces are here, Annabeth explained. My stomach started to churn. Monsters here. Wait, who? They pointed to two older teenagers. They don't look threatening. They are Empisa. They don't look threatening, but I promise you that they are, Percy said. Okay. Then what do we do? James asked. Well, you don't do anything. But Carolyn, we need you, Percy said. You have your dagger from your dad, right? This got me nervous. I might be a life of a party and can talk big, but let's say fighting isn't one of my strengths. I figure out plans and potions, but when it comes to standing up to someone who could kill you with one wrong move, not my thing. Yeah, can't you see, it's in my hair. I turned around so he could see it. I almost wished I didn't have so I could get out of this. Good, get it out and follow us, Annabeth said. I noticed that Percy and Annabeth were now both holding weapons. I told James that I was sorry, tossed off my shoes, and I followed them. I know it's a bad habit, but I began to bite my fingers, a symbol that I'm nervous about something. Clearly Annabeth and Percy didn't know that. Okay, so what exactly are we doing? I asked them. We were getting close to the two teenagers. So I'm going to distract them, then you and Annabeth stab each of them from the back, okay? Percy said. I nodded and then we jumped. Well, more like they did, I just tagged behind. Percy began to distract them and it appeared to be working. Annabeth was able to stab hers and it turned to dust. But while I was trying to copy what she did, I got nervous and way too slow. It came after me with great big wild fangs. I could have fought, but let's just say that it's easier to talk about fighting a monster than actually fighting one. You could say that I got monster fright, but then again, who wouldn't? So what did I do, you ask? I did what any average, sensible, not brave person did. I ran. I ran as fast as I could. I would love to say that it looked like a happy game of tag and everyone began to laugh at us, but then I would just be lying. What did happen? Well, I threw my hands up in the air and began to scream, "Help!" Jade and James, who knew that when it came to defense against the arts I was good at knowing the spells and good at flicking my wand, but when it came time to stand up in class and perform them to anything besides a witch or wizard or a dummy, I freaked out. They ran out and made a small wall around me. They each pulled out their wands and stuck it in the monster's face. They threw a couple of spells at it until Percy was able to stab it with his sword. "So, you're not great at fighting, I guess?" Percy asked after he took down the monster. "Well, I wouldn't know. My nerves get the best of me," I said, feeling embarrassed. "Well, I guess it's a Zeus child thing. You know, to be the opposite of what you would think. Like Talia being scared of heights," Percy said. I began to debate with myself if it was an insult or not, but I didn't have time to come up with an answer. Suddenly, a whole boatload of monsters and traitor half-bloods entered the party. All of the older teenager witches and wizards drew their wands and began to fight the half-bloods while Percy and Annabeth took on the monsters that needed to be killed with their swords. What was I doing, you may ask? Well, I was taking the younger witches and wizards out of the room with the help of Ariana's little sister, Kirsten. Kirsten, like Ariana, was a born leader and was great at speaking to a crowd. Together, we herded the younger and nervous kids, like myself, to safety. When I returned, everyone was doing great. The only problem was that it seemed like it would never end. There always seemed to be more. Annabeth, who had just tackled a monster, came up to me. "How many more are there?" I asked her as they came by me. "That's not the biggest of our problems," she said, taking big and heavy breaths. She had scratches on her arms and legs, and she looked really tired. "Then what is? Luke, or I guess Kronos now," she said solemnly and quietly. I could barely hear her. This was clearly a sensitive subject. "Who's Luke? Is Kronos here?" "No, or at least not yet. If he's here it won't be good." She sighed and ran off. If I could see her correctly through all the spells and commotion, I think I could see some tears. Okay, so here is this chapter. I was going to keep to my promise and post on Sunday, but the site was down, and then by the time it was up I got extremely busy, but I was going to keep to my promise. The bribe worked, so I'm going to do it again. So if I get more than 10 reviews again, I will promise to update by Saturday. I would saw why Friday, but I have a choral concert Friday that doesn't end till late, so if not, I'll still try to update this weekend, but no promises. So if you want an update, review. Greek mythology Louvre 7. I've decided not to change my pen name. It'll makes things confusing if I do. So for now, I'm not changing it. Battle Royale. Hi, I'm so sorry that it has taken me forever to update. I've just been so busy. I'm really sorry. I know I won't be able to update this weekend, but starting next weekend I have my spring break, so I'll be able to update. Anyways, here is the next chapter. Carolyn's Pav. I walked up to the balcony and looked down at the battle. The large number of monsters was finally decreasing. It was looking bright for us half-bloods and witches and wizards. My guilt began to climb to my throat and make me feel sick. Of all these people here, I was the most qualified to fight these monsters. I have the powers of a witch and a half-blood, and I was doing nothing at all. I took out my dagger and looked at it long and hard. It was unused, and it looked like it was going to remain that way. My father should just take it back. I'm not worth it. I'm the most likely the worst child of Zeus ever. Like seriously, while everyone is fighting for their lives, I'm just standing here as a coward. I stared down at the battle scene. Below, Percy was chopping monsters up like crazy. Annabeth was leaping across the room and taking monsters out like it was planned ahead of time. Something caught my eye. There was a monster that was about to attack Jade. She was fighting against T.A. Griffin when another monster was behind her and she didn't know it. If I didn't do something within the next 30 seconds, Jade will die. I had to do something. But what could I do? I remembered that I was holding my dagger. I dropped it down and it went straight into the monster's head and it turned to dust at the same time Jade defeated the griffin. She turned around and picked up my dagger. She looked at it with a questioning look. Then suddenly figured it out and looked up. Her eyes met mine and they read, "Thanks." I smiled and nodded in return. Not long after that, all of the monsters were destroyed or they had fled. Luckily, there was no sign of Kronos all night, which was a relief. I ran down the stairs and found Percy, Annabeth, and Jade all huddled together, talking. "You guys were all so great," I said while pulling them into one large hug. "Thanks," Percy said while shrugging like it was no big deal and he did this every day, which was probably true. "Well, I have to say thanks to you. You saved my life," Jade said while pulling me into a half hug. "Well, I wouldn't want my best friend to die now, would I?" I asked jokingly. "No, well that wouldn't be good. I'm going to go check to see if Jeff is okay. Catch up with you guys later," she said while walking up to her new beau. I watched her interact with him, them hugging in gratitude of them still being alive and all. "Carolyn, my dad wants to talk to you," Ariana said while tapping on my shoulder. Her dad, the minister, wanted to talk to me. I mean, I've met him before, but after this I wasn't quite sure I wanted to talk to him. Sure, I'll be there in a second," I assured her as she walked off towards the rest of the guests to make sure that they were okay. "This is perfect." Annabeth talked for the first time since the battle. "Why?" Percy and I said in unison. "I feel like we're in trouble or something," I said. "This is a perfect one-on-one conversation with him to ask about help in the war." Annabeth said while grabbing both of our hands and leading us towards the other room where we all knew he was there. "Carolyn Summers, it's been too long," he said, beckoning us over. "Yes, it's really nice to see you, sir," I said. "Sorry about what happened tonight," I said sincerely. "Don't worry about it. It won't take long to do some spells and it'll be fixed in no time," he said. "I was just wondering what happened. What were those creatures?" I left those questions to Percy and Annabeth, who answered them just as good as always. Annabeth explained about how we could really use some help from the wizards. "I see your concern, but it will be hard to do," he said sympathetically. "I mean, I can try, but it sounds like you need some ores, and I can't just send them to America without any proof," he said, clearly forgetting what he had seen earlier, or this was his excuse not to send them. "Excuse me, sir, but I thought that the tons of the monsters from tonight would have been plenty of proof," Annabeth said calmly. "Oh right, I guess it's unavoidable. I think it would be the right thing today, plus, it would give us a good name among the half-bloods," he said simply. This made Annabeth smile in a, "Yes, I won him over" way. If you knew him well enough, you would know that this could have been translated into, "If we do them a favor, if we need them in the future, they'll have to help us." Oh well, I guess it would be worth it. "So does this mean that we have a deal?" I asked. "Yes, we do have a deal," he said, while taking my hand and shaking it. Shortly after, we found Jade and the rest of her family and went back to her house. We all fell to bed immediately due to the huge amount of energy used during the battle against the monsters. The battle with the wizards, he battle where we'd finally accomplished our quest. We'd finished what we came to do. Then a scary and almost sad thought ran through my head. They would be able to leave England. Go back to America. Winter break was almost over for everyone, then Percy and Annabeth's trip here was all over. They'd be leaving soon, even though I knew I would have to be back at camp in the summer for the big war. I would miss them for the few months that they wouldn't be here. Sharing laughs and jokes, and different cultures. Half-bloods would be forgotten for a bunch of months, only the wizarding world now. I didn't know if I could adjust to it anymore. Okay, so this is the second to last chapter, meaning that the next one is the finale. So please review. I really want to know what you think, so you know what to do. Press the green button and tell me what you think. Thanks for reading. Greek Mythology Louver 7, A Temporary Goodbye. Hi, so, here is the final chapter. I want to say a huge thanks to everyone who has reviewed this story. Every single review I've gotten means a ton and I appreciate it so much. Sorry that this chapter is going to be on the short side. Okay, on with the last chapter. Carolyn's paw. Hurry up, seaweed brain. We're going to miss the boat, and then we'll miss the beginning of school, which won't be good. Annabeth called to Percy from the dock of where they were entering the boat to go back home. Since I would no longer with them to supply protection in the sky, they had to take a boat. Percy rolled his eyes in a, why would I care if I missed school again? Way, that made me smile. Have a fun time overseas, I said, pulling him into a hug that he tried to edge out of. Hugs won't kill you, Percy. Besides, you hug Annabeth just fine, I said when he managed to get out of my grasp. It's going to be weird without you guys, no one else to keep me sane when I'm with her, Jade said to them. I gave her a questioning look, which she returned with a smirk. We caught up to Annabeth at the end of the dock. She was tapping her foot impatiently as she leaned against the rail of the dock near where you entered the boat. Annabeth, no one's here yet. We're early. You said we were late. You lied, Percy accused while wagging his finger at her. I know you're not good at keeping time, so I lied about a half hour. How did I know that you'd be on time for once? Annabeth said, sharing a laugh with Jade and I. You females have the weirdest sense of humor. You think that men can't do a thing, he said, pouting. Maybe that's because they can't, Jade said while playing with her shoulder-length black hair. Besides, what do you have against women? Annabeth said, folding her arms over her chest. Yeah, what's wrong with us, Percy? I said to add on to the drama. I didn't mean that, he said, exasperated. If you hate women so much, why are you going out with me? Huh, Percy, why? Annabeth demanded. Because you're pretty. Perfect, Percy said, flashing one of those please forgive me I was joking smiles. Yeah, right. But either way, I'm stuck with you on this boat for the next few days, so I might as well forgive you, Annabeth said, looking from Jade to I. Thanks, I guess, he said. This is how you treat our relationship, as an, I guess, attitude, Annabeth said, now clearly just trying to tick Percy off. Well, you 5 days on a boat together to solve these problems, I said, trying to get past this conversation. As much as I love drama and stuff, this conversation should end before it turns into an actual fight. For a nice effect, add the song. This is Home by Switchfoot. It looks like it's time to board, Annabeth said, looking at all the people crowding onto the walkways off the now open boat. Yeah, it looks like it, I said with a sigh. Can't wait to see you again this summer. I would be able to return to camp in the summer from now on, and I couldn't wait. Sorry to say this, but I'm not, Percy said, looking down. Oh right, the big war. If I were you, I wouldn't be looking towards this summer either, I said, feeling stupid for not remembering. Well, let's not think about that now, Jade said, trying to lighten up the mood. Yeah, I have 2 more minutes with my 2 new best friends and we're thinking about how we all might die this summer. We really should change the subject, I said. Well, goodbye for now, I guess, Annabeth said, giving me and Jade a hug before heading up on the boat. Now it was Jade, Percy, and I left behind. I won't give you a hug, but I will shake your hand, I said plainly to Percy while I grabbed it and began to shake it violently, and added a Carolyn special to it. Oh, you didn't have to shock me while you're at it, he said, withdrawing his hand and shaking it out. Sorry, I just had to give you something to remember me by, I said with a smile. He and Jade said goodbye to each other as he boarded the boat and disappeared to go and meet Annabeth. I have to say, Jade, I think that this was the best winter holiday yet, I said to her. I have to agree, she said, cutting herself off. Carolyn, did Percy and Annabeth replace me as your best friend, because earlier you... This time I cut her off. Of course, they're 2 of my best friends, Jade. You know I have a lot of best friends, but only one of them is my BFF, and that's you, I said to her. Carolyn, Jade, someone screamed from behind us. We quickly glanced at each other before turning around. Percy and Annabeth were waving at us as the boat pulled out of the dock. We waved back and screamed, "See you soon," or "Have a good trip," until they were out of view. Jade and I now began to walk faster back towards the city where we going to take a subway to a flow network. When we got back inside Jade's house in her room, we sat down on her bed. "Carolyn, we have some training to do," she said, lying down on her bed. "Why?" I asked while copying her by lying on her bed with our feel hanging out the horizontal end. Because this summer, in the war, you are fighting. The end. Okay, so there was the last chapter, the big finale. I have an idea for a sequel that I want to do at some point. There are some other stories that I want to try out first, so it might take me a while to get around to writing it. Since I don't know if I'll put sequel in the summary, I will tell you the title of it now. It will be called The Tournament. Thank you all again for reviewing this story. Reviews always make my day, so a lot of you guys made my day a lot of the time. Thanks for reading. Greek Mythology Louvre 7.